The Blast from Our Past Network.
Lock your doors, close your windows, turn out your lights, for chills and thrills await you. It's time for Podcasting After Dark with your hosts, Corey Stevenson and Zach Schaefer. Stay with a friend, say your prayers as grisly ghouls close in to seal your doom. Tonight's episode, Guyver 2, Dark Hero, starring David Hayter, Kathy Christopherson, and Christopher Michael.
Make coffee, push the start button. Guyver. Put toast in the toaster, push the start button. Guyver. Make breakfast. Guyver.
Stub your toe on the side of the counter. Guyver!
Hey everybody, it's the most wonderful time of the year to talk about a movie called Guyver 2, depending on what box you're looking at, or Guyver Dark Hero, or as I like to say, and you can hear it in the intro, Guyver 2 Dark Hero, because I think that would have been a lot better. Welcome everybody to Podcasting After Dark, Guyver. And I do not have some weird thing going on like a Twitch or something. I'm just Guyver, excited to talk about Guyver. And joining me, it's me, Zach Schaefer, Guyver. And joining me as always, my Guyver in crime, Corey Sleazy C. Stevenson. What's up, Corey?
What's up, Guyver? Zach, Guyver. Go, Guyver Rangers!
Go, Guyver! Can I be the red Guyver? Can I be the pink Guyver? Yes.
Can I be in the pink Guyver?
Oh, well.
Hey-o!
We are talking about the R-rated version of the Power Rangers, essentially. It is Guyver. Yeah, and I we're going to do our whole rigmarole, background, history, all that good stuff, cast and crew. But before we do any of that, this episode is being brought to you basically by Robert Ortiz. Robert Ortiz is a patron. He's also a friend, but he's at the highest tier of our Patreon series. And that is where you can pick a movie yourself. And Robert Ortiz did just that. He already chose Excalibur earlier in the month. And for this one, he chose Guyver 2. We were a little backlogged with our movies, other patrons' movies. So we just decided to double up with Robert, a double dose of Robbie Ortiz in the month of November. And yeah, Guyver 2, Dark Hero, was Robert's choice. And before I get into my background with it, Corey, what's your background? What's your background with Guyver 2, Dark Hero, Power Rangers, Dark?
Go, rated R Power Rangers! That didn't work. We'll workshop that during the course of this episode. So my background with Guyver 2, Dark Hero is nothing. But I actually have a decent amount of other Guyver backgrounds. Back in, you guys all know, born in 78, grew up in the 80s and the 90s. I actually watched a lot of the Guyver anime. I don't know if there was like one or multiples, if I just like re-rented one, or if I watched, I can't remember. I haven't revisited the series in a while. But I did like the Guyver animes. I watched them a couple times, and I actually had a Guyver vinyl model kit. The dude was like a figure, like him as a figure that you had to put together and paint and everything. And he was a good 12 inches tall. Like, he was big. Only thing kind of sucked was he was kind of a static pose. He was just sort of standing there with his arms at his sides, but it looked amazing. And I'm sure Robert had the same model, or at least knows what I'm talking about. So I love the Guyver. I was a big Guyver fan as a kid. Then the first live action movie came out. I was excited to see it, and it was so bad that I never watched it again or this. And I kind of didn't even go back to Guyver. That's how bad that first movie was. So Guyver 2, Dark Hero, no experience. Guyver anime, lot of experience. Guyver 1, maybe one viewing, maybe two. I might have revisited Guyver 1 a second time just to see if it was as bad as I remember, and it was, and then I just purged it all from my memory.
Yeah, it's really a shame. Before I get into my background, I just want to briefly talk about the original Guyver.
Yeah.
That came out in 1991. It boasted the cover art of Mark Hamill on one side of the screen, fused with the Guyver on the other side of the screen, which would give you the impression that Mark Hamill is in fact, Guyver, which he is in fact not. It was played by another actor named Jack Armstrong, Sean Barker, aka Guyver. Jack Armstrong is not the Guyver or Sean Barker in this, and we'll get to who it is in just a moment because it's very notable. But the original Guyver had a pretty amazing cast. Jimmy J.J. Walker was the voice of one of the Zoanoids. Michael Berryman was in it. Mark Hamill, of course. Say what you will about Mark Hamill. David Gale, he was, of course, in Reanimator. Famous doctor in that. And Jeffrey Combs was in this as well. And Linnea Quigley.
And it's funny because in that movie, Jeffrey Combs' name is Dr. East versus, Dr. West in Reanimator. So they knew what they were doing there.
They did, and Screaming Mad George directed it, along with Steve Wang, who directed this one. Screaming Mad George is a effects guy who's done crazy effects. Just look up his resume, and he's a very well-known effects guy. And I think that was why I wanted to see Guyver when it first came out, and I was stoked about it. And then I saw it, and I had the same feeling you did. I was utterly disappointed. And then my background, similar to Corey's, I watched the anime back in the day, which was pretty intense, I remember, as a kid.
It was super violent, dude, because he would slice them with his arm thing, like down the middle, sometimes Voltron style, and it was always bloody and like, we're talking like geysers of blood coming out of them.
Yeah, and I remember renting that with my buddy Jamal at Ultimate Video back in the day. And then Guyver Dark Hero came out. It was not called Guyver 2. I think that was tagged on later just to sell it
for the DVD.
It's a sequel, yeah. But I remember watching it back then and not really thinking much of it. Had no idea we were going to be breaking it down scene by scene now, which is crazy. All these years later. And we'll get, when we talk about the cast and crew, we'll talk about one specific person that I have a really cool connection with, actually. But I also wanted to say, as we're kind of talking about what works, what doesn't, as far as like the original and the animes were very cool. And then this one, and not having too many feelings about it back then. I'm watching this one and I'm going, Blue Beetle owes so much to Guyver. And I was kind of tripping about it because it's very similar. Creature goes inside this kid's body. He basically becomes whatever he thinks it becomes. Like, there's elements that are so similar to Blue Beetle, and that's not a bad thing. I'm like, there's a little Guyver influence on this bad boy.
No, I think you're actually pretty accurate, and I don't think we should, undermine the fact that the Guyver was pretty influential back in the day. This movie specifically, I think, has a stronger cult following than the first one, but I think in general, the Guyver has a very strong cult following. And knowing the humor in Blue Beetle was very like nostalgic, like 90s centric. And, Guyver 1 came out in 91, this came out in 94. So I wouldn't be surprised if the writer and the director of Blue Beetle like had some idea. But at the same time, I get it because in the comics, that Blue Beetle is that way also in the comics. So I think you have to sort of still go back to the comics version, but this version of Blue Beetle is still post Guyver. So I do agree that there is, I wouldn't be surprised that there was like some kind of influence there if you talk to the creatives about it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I want to just get the elephant in the room out of the way. This movie is over 2 hours long. Corey and I ahead of time were like, this movie is probably 30 minutes longer than it needs to be. There are scenes in this film, and we kind of won't go on about that in the breakdown, but there's scenes in this film that go on way too long. And I think that's worth noting.
Yeah, I like getting the sort of the negatives out of the way here, and we're gonna balance it out by giving our what we really like about it as well. But like you said, let's get the negatives out of the way first, so we don't kind of have to keep harping on them and everything. I know that you guys all know that we love our movies to be at 90 minutes, and we talk about it a lot. Now, I think we both agreed that Excalibur could have been longer. Like, we actually needed some more information, and that would have been okay. But here, like Zach said, it's a 2 hour and 3 minute movie. Guys and gals, this does not need to be that long. No movie of this ilk needs to be 2 hours long. And I was telling my wife, I wouldn't necessarily cut any scene, but every scene could have like a minute trim from it. I will give you an example. Spoiler alert, halfway through the movie, they uncover the ship in the cave, right? And as the music swells and everyone gets excited, the camera dollies in on our main character, Sean, who plays the Guyver, or who is the Guyver. And yeah, okay, of course, yeah, he gets his heroic moment, he's smiling. His love interest, the daughter of the doctor, archaeologist, the camera dollies in on her, she's smiling, got it. Then, for another minute, the camera dollies in on 4 more people that progressively you don't care about. And ultimately, that scene now realistically becomes 3 minutes when it could have been 25 to 30 seconds. And that is this movie's biggest fault. Because at 2 hours, we get action scenes that are spread apart by like 20 minutes in span and time. And it makes the movie, the pacing is just terrible. So I'm with Zach. Like, it has to be called out. This movie is a hour and 25 minute movie at best, and it's been padded out to 2 hours and 3 minutes. And that to me is egregious.
Okay, everybody, thank you so much for listening to Podcasting After Dark. Thank you, Robert.
And Rob, I'm sorry. I don't want to come in hot on this, but it is what it is, and I love good pacing. And this movie is an example of it needs an editor that can trim it down and knows what to cut out, because a good editor doesn't always spend every second with the director going through everything. Actually, a really good editor will a lot of times edit the movie on their own. And this is so movies almost have 3 visions. They have the writer's vision, they have the director's vision, and they have the editor's vision. This editor here had no vision, and he just put everything in that the director told him to put in.
And as Queen says, we just need one vision.
Yes, exactly. And then on top of it, I think the other, probably a little, to the lesser extent, is that this movie isn't rated R enough. They didn't go fully hardcore into it. There's a couple scenes, and there's going to be one scene I'm going to really call out. Every move is awesome. When he fights this one Zoonoid, and he fucking crushes his head. It's great. I love it. But, that's the most violent one that there is. And I wanted every single Zoonoid death to be uber violent. But if it's not, then make this thing PG. It's the weakest rated R that I've ever seen.
Yeah, agreed. And that being said, when we do this breakdown, which we will start eventually, 20 minutes, 30 minutes down the road, we will call out all the things we love. And of course, you guys know all the things we don't love, we will call out as well that don't work, including yelling out for Corey twice when he should have just said it once. But that's a whole other story. We'll get to that later. But before we get to all of that, let's talk about the cast and crew, because there are some very cool, fun facts to bring up for this cast and crew. First off, Steve Wang is the director. He also wrote the story along with Nathan Long. I'll just say quickly, Nathan Long is a screenwriter. He's done a lot of video games, which is cool. He also worked on LA Heat, which was a TV series from 97 to 99.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, so, some cool, fun stuff. But Steve Wang, he directed a movie called Drive with Mark Dacascos and Kadeem Hardison, and Brittany Murphy, rest in peace. I actually like that movie. I think it's a pretty cool 90s action movie. It's got great fight scenes in it.
And I think MVD Rewind just put out a Blu-ray this year of it, earlier this year, or late last year or something.
They did. So that's worth picking up if you guys are fans of Mark Dacascos, martial art movies, 90s action movies. It's like a buddy movie as well. Kadeem Hardison's good, but Mark Dacascos really stands out. Love that dude.
Yeah, no, me too. I think he's awesome. I think it's interesting. He's done. Steve Wang does a lot of like special effects, art department stuff. He actually worked on that Aquaman TV show that was like a CW spinoff of, I think, but it never like, I don't think it made it past the pilot. But he also worked on Lady in the Water and Underworld and stuff like that. Like he's constantly working, but you can tell. And again, even with our negatives aside, you can tell that he loves the Guyver though. Like you can tell that he loves this story, he loves this world, and this, I gotta say, this movie is his magnum opus.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And everybody working in this film is working their butt off talent-wise. It's very clear. Most of the actors in this, have either had not done much prior to this or have not done much since this. But everybody is capable, and I really kind of enjoy like some of the side characters. I think they do a pretty decent job. Like in many ways, this is a movie you would find on Sci-Fi Channel. And that's not a knock. It's just like a movie that you would find on Sci-Fi at 1 p.m. on a Saturday. And you're like, what is this? I'm going to sit down and watch this. Oh, this is cool. Take a nap, wake up, still on. Oh, this is cool. Fall asleep again because, it's such a long movie. And, oh, it's still on? Okay, cool. Oh, there's a cool fight scene. All right, cool. Oh, there's some, beautiful leading actors. That's cool. All right, keep going.
So I want to call out Brian Wade, I believe, is the one that did the monsters in this. And if so, he also worked on Army of the Dead, Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead, which I think was actually very cool. But he also worked on the key effects creatures, and he says key creatures in Stranger Things season 4. And that makes sense to me because let's counterbalance the negative stuff that I was just saying a few minutes ago about the extra 30 minutes of this. The monsters are fantastic, especially
so good.
Especially the main bad one, Kane, because his mouth moves.
Oh, Crane.
Crane. Yep, you're right. Sorry, Crane. When he's in creature mode, dude, his face is so expressive. His mouth moves to the point where I'm like, was this made in 2023? Like, it's so good. Now, some of the other ones are, okay, it's a suit. But the ones that count, the Guyver, Crane, and like maybe one or two other ones, unbelievable for 1994 low-budget film.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it just popped in my head as well. I'm sure our buddy Steven Kostanski was influenced by this movie when he made Psycho Gorman, because this has lots of shades, or lots of homages in Psycho Gorman. If you guys haven't seen that movie, then you're probably not listening to this podcast, because we talk about that movie all the time and we love it. Great practical effects, just like this one did.
Yeah, and I mean, we interviewed Steven Kostanski so long ago that if we interviewed him post Guyver 2, I mean, I would just straight up ask him, like, how much were you influenced by Guyver and Guyver 2? And knowing his body of work, I guarantee you he was influenced by it. Because even in this movie, when there's like, we see like the flashback to like prehistory and it's like all miniatures and everything, I was getting total Psycho Gorman vibes.
Big time. I think it's pretty obvious. Oftentimes in movies that have a guy in a suit, you're like, I'd rather see more of the guy in the suit than the guy outside of the suit. But this is, I would say, not the case. I think it's pretty balanced. I think the lead actor is really good in this, and turns out he's kind of a big deal outside of this movie. David Hayter plays Sean Barker. Who is David Hayter, Corey? Look at, you're chomping at the bit. You're like, go.
Because I didn't.
Guyver.
Because I didn't look up IMDb, beforehand on my first time watch. And I feel like I knew this knowledge at one point, but forgot it. And I'm watching the movie and I'm like, that motherfucker looks familiar. I was like, that motherfucker's David Hayter. And I just go to verify and I'm like, okay, it is. And guys and gals, David Hayter, he wrote the first two X-Men movies, X-Men and X2. And he also wrote the Watchmen screenplay and whatnot. So he's a very accomplished writer. But me and so many video game nerds who grew up on the PlayStation 1, the PlayStation 2, the PlayStation 3, I'm a Sony fanboy. David Hayter is the voice of Solid Snake from Metal Gear Solid. And you never, ever hear it in this movie at all. Like, he never does his Solid Snake voice, even in Guyver form. So it's like, I almost respect him more that it's not just his voice, like he's actually doing a voice when he's doing Solid Snake.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I had no idea who it was. So when you text me that, I was like, oh, cool. And fun fact, part 2 or 3, or how many fun facts we're going to share in the next few moments. I never played that game. So there you go.
Yeah, no, I get it, buddy. But do you remember the NES game that came out?
I totally do. I remember. I'm like, oh, that looks like Hicks a little bit, at times.
It did. The cover artist actually used Michael Biehn as a reference. I know exactly. You remember the ad in the comic books in the back of the comics and everything.
I sure did.
But yeah, so Metal Gear Solid was an update of that old Nintendo 8-bit series, and then when they updated it, they were able to actually do voice acting and stuff like that, and then David Hayter does like the main guy Solid Snake's voice.
That's
and then,
awesome.
Because Solid Snake is a clone of his father, like he could actually voice him through, even though the game sort of went in reverse and sort of went backwards, he could actually keep voicing it because he was just a clone anyways.
Cool.
You're like, awesome.
Yeah. Speaking of awesome, Kathy Christopherson plays Corey, and Kathy has been in quite a few movies and television series post this. Notably, she was on Kamen Rider for several seasons. Actually, she was in 22 episodes of Kamen Rider, but she's been in a lot of television shows like Dexter, Californication, Lucifer. She's working all the time. But here's my little fun fact about her. So we have a thing here where I live where you can post something on Facebook. It's called like Ask, Borrow, Give or something. And people can say, oh, I want that, versus like throwing it away or giving it to Goodwill. And I posted some things up on there, and it turns out Kathy claimed it. So she came to the house to pick up the stuff I was giving away. And she and I were talking about, what we respectively do. And she's like, oh, I'm an actor. And I said, oh, I'm a voice actor. I also, run a few podcasts. And she's like, oh, what are they called? And I told her, and she's like, oh, I was in a movie in the 90s. Oh my gosh, called The Guyver. And I'm like, oh yeah. Really? She's like, yeah, it was a crazy movie. And I said, oh, maybe I should have you on the show sometime. And this was before Robert even picked this movie. And then when he picked the movie, I reached out to Kathy. She said, I'd love to be on the show. So look for a future interview with Kathy Christopherson, who plays Corey in the film. The lead. The opposite of Sean Barker, a.k.a. Guyver.
Yeah, and, not because we may interview her at some point, she may listen to this. I really liked her in this movie.
She's good.
I thought she did a great job, just like David Hayter. I thought did a great job. Both of our leads are strong. I think any fault in this movie lies, sadly, in the directing and the editing. But Our lead actors are very strong.
I totally agree. And I'm going to jump over a couple people who don't have IMDb photos, because you know how we feel about that. It's like, come on, guys, if you're not deceased, you're alive, put a picture up of something you did on IMDb.
Yeah, spoiler alert, 80% of this cast doesn't have pictures, and they also, the ones that don't have pictures, have like 1 or 2 roles under their belts.
Yeah, so we will kind of go over those quickly, but Christopher Michael plays Atkins. I referenced him in the intro to the show as well. I thought he was really
guy
good.
I liked on this.
Yeah, and he's been in a bunch of things, from New Jack City to Cable Guy to Fools Rush In, starring the late Matthew Perry.
Yeah, no, he's still working up to 2023. Like, he's still coming out with stuff now, and I thought he was fine, like really good. I really enjoyed him in this.
I agree.
I wish some of the close-up shots weren't out of focus.
Yeah, I mean, come on. That was, again, and those would be scenes that they just cut out of the movie.
Yep.
If they were out of focus. Bruno Patrick plays Crane. He doesn't really have any credits, but I thought he did a really nice job in this movie as the evil Crane. Yes. Dr. Crane, Professor Crane, blah, 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 Crane. We'll get to it.
Yeah.
Stuart Weiss plays Marcus. Marcus is the father of Corey, Marcus Edwards, Dr. Marcus Edwards. He's really good. And when something happens to him later in the movie, you're kind of shocked at the big reveal.
Yeah.
But he's been in a bunch of things as well. Not a whole lot of things, but he's another capable actor who does a really good job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then Wes Dietrich plays Volker, one of the few people who actually has a photo on IMDb. Yeah. He plays one of the main security guards who works for Crane. He's also been in quite a few things. Good actor. Is a good menacing scumbag in this. Wes Dietrich.
He's also one of those people that actually looks better older than he did when he was younger.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree.
That's such a weird thing, especially when you're younger. You're like, well, I hope I look better when I'm older.
Well, my mom used to say that to me. She goes, "You're going to be so handsome when you get older." I'm like, "What about now, Mom?"
Now?
You're going to be so handsome when you get older. Well, what about now? And she walks away. You're going to be so
handsome one day. One day you'll be so handsome.
All right. Well, I don't know. Is there anybody else that you want to point out?
No.
How about Bob?
No, not really, to be honest with you. I want to call out the cinematographer because I don't know, man. It's
you do?
No,
You do?
I want to call him out because he fucking sucked. Michael G. Wojciechowski. He was also the cinematographer of Drive and that movie Legion. Remember the one with Dennis Quaid. And,
oh, really?
Yeah, which he did a competent job in that. It's just, dude, you saw it as well as I did. So many shots in this movie that take place at night. Like, they'll try to do something where the focus walks behind the character, and then it's supposed to rack focus to the person in the front, and then it doesn't. And then we're left with, 45 seconds of the actor looking around or trying to look, concerned or something, but they're out of focus the entire fucking time. And it's not something that happens once. It's not something that happens twice. It is something that happens constantly in this movie.
Yeah. It's sad but true. He also edited or cinematograph
Shot. He also shot.
A movie called My Own Worst Enemy. You remember that song?
Yeah,
by
do.
Lit? Please tell me. Oh, the 90s. Guyver 2, Dark Hero. Please tell me what. That song should have been playing in the trailer. My Own Worst Enemy. It could have. And I also want to point out the fact that this is not, even though it's supposed to take place in Utah, I'm looking at it the whole time going, I recognize those trails. I think I've been on those trails. It's in Angeles National Forest, not too far from where I and Corey used to live. So, hey, whatever. It's all good. 90% of this movie takes place in the same location. It's pretty impressive that they stretched it out to 2 hours and 3 minutes. This breakdown may not be as long as the movie for the first time.
I got to call out one more person. Les E. Claypool III. As I was watching this for the first time, I guess I didn't notice the third, but I'm also not a huge Primus fan, so I was like, oh, maybe Les Claypool's name is Les Claypool III. So, very first time I watched this movie, I labored under the assumption that this was scored by Les Claypool of Primus. I was ready for a rockin' score, and I'm sorry, Rob, but throughout the course of this film, Les Claypool III has...
Guyver.
Rob's like, just get to the Guyver. Has one kind of score, one theme for the entire movie, and it never ends. So one of the things that makes and it stays the same tempo, it never changes, and it's noticeable in the 15-minute climax fight between where multiple things happen. Like, there's lots of highs and lows in that fight.
Crazy, yeah.
But his tempo, the music never changes. It's like he all he did was go, and then they looped it. They looped it forever because it never changes. It never does anything. So Les E. Claypool III, he was a dialogue editor on a Resident Evil anime cartoon. He was like a dialogue editor on Perfect Blue, which was another anime. He's a dialogue editor on a lot of cartoons and anime stuff, and he should never be put in charge of a musical score ever again.
I bet Steve Wang was like, "Oh, we got Les Claypool. Guys, we got the guy, Daryl was a race car driver, drove so goddamn fast, never did get no checker flag, never did come in last. You know that bass guy that people in high school used to freak out about? Yeah, and they listen to King Missile, and they listen to, Ween. Well, we love Ween, and I love Primus actually too, and I love King Missile. But,
I don't like Primus. I'm not a fan.
Shout out to Lee Germani really quick, because he's probably going, yeah, I love all that shit too. I'm sure Steve was like, yeah, we got Les Claypool. And then they're like, you're not Les Claypool. How much of a budget did we have, guys? We have that much? Look, Les, we can give you McDonald's gift cards as payment. And Les goes, oh, I'll take that. Sure.
And I'll deliver this 1 10-second audio clip, and you can just loop it ad nausea.
I believe he said, I knew the minute I put this bracelet on, I'd be the composer of this movie. Hail to the chief, la-di-da-di-da.
I knew when my name was Les Claypool, I'd get this job here.
Yeah. When you said looped it, I'm like, oh, that's like that song "Pop Goes the Weasel" by Third Base, because they're making fun of Vanilla Ice. They're like, you took a song, you took a song and you looped it. Pop goes the weasel, the weasel. I love Third Base, by the way. Way better than this score.
Oh, Rob, that's it. We put it all on the table. It's all out there, all the problems I have with this movie. So let's have some fun. Let's enjoy some giant rubber suit monster action, because that freaking rocks in this movie. And let's do it. Guyver!
There is a line between good. Let the man go. Yeah, right. And evil. Between light and darkness.
Don't kill me.
Sean Barker. Has crossed that line. He's been drawn here by a power.
Everybody here knows what we're digging for.
By a force.
I see it in my dreams and I put it down on paper.
He doesn't understand.
Who are you? The Guyver, he's here. I know you got claws you ain't showing. I'm not the one with the claws.
Have them here in another hour, or shall I send someone with more experience?
Out of the darkness.
Let's find it together.
Out of the shadows. A new breed of hero. A dark hero.
Guyver.
All right, so really quickly, this is a New Line movie. This was released by New Line Cinema. So you get the beautiful New Line, that New Line intro, which I miss so much.
Dude, God, I love it so much. It brings me all the member berries come flooding back. I love it so much.
You remember when title cards used to just be one title card of a production company? Now there's like 8 title cards for production companies, and they don't make any noises.
Yeah. Or what was it? Remember when we saw Dread 3D in the theater, and there was one title card in that was like off-centered. It was just like the worst title card I've ever seen. But of whatever company. Clearly, they didn't care about that company at all. But anyways, right. New Line Cinemas, fucking love it right here. Got me in the mood, baby.
Me too. And you get the first shot you see is of the Guyver unit, and you hear a narration of Sean Barker saying the Guyver unit. His narration over this flashing Guyver unit says, "It's been a year since the alien armor invaded my body and became a part of me. A year since I first became the Guyver and destroyed the Kronos Corporation and their shape-changing killers, the Zoonoids. Now Kronos is gone, but the Guyver stays in me, calling me to fight, to kill." Suddenly you get a quick shot of Sean's face, kind of in the reflection of the Guyver, center of the Guyver unit, which looks like a Benoit ball. It's like a little ball.
Yeah.
And then you get a cityscape shot with lightning crashing, and then the hero Guyver in his suit comes into view. Cut to a bunch of Goomba gangsters beating the crap out of a security guard in a warehouse. I think they kill the guy, actually.
Yeah,
And
by
then-
accident, I think.
Right, yeah, I think it was an accident. And the other security guard kind of looks on. Main Goomba, whose name is DC, tells his crew to open up the crates. Turns out they're all a bunch of dolls, as the security guard says. Dolls? DC goes, "The latest technology. You mix cocaine with plastic, you can shape it into anything you like. Melt it back down, it's 100% pure."
I don't think it would be 100% pure. Like, wouldn't plastic still be in it?
I think this has been done before, actually for reals, by like Mexican cartels, at least in that show Narcos. I think they were doing something like that. Or I've
Okay.
seen another show where it's been done before, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting.
And who knows, maybe plastic is better for you than fentanyl anyways.
Sure. And bath salts, I guess, too.
Yeah.
So, by the way, my impression of DC is 100% better than the actual actor in the movie.
Oh!
Suddenly,
The good thing is he won't be around for very long. Oh!
Oh! So suddenly they hear a loud sound. DC's like, "What the fuck was that?" He tells his crew to go. He tells Benny to go check it out.
I love how no one will survive this. This is like the prequel. This is like just the cold open. No one's going to survive it, but we have names. They gave us names.
We haven't gotten any title cards, nothing yet.
No.
We're getting to know all these people, right? At this point, DC wants everybody to pack up and get the hell out of there. He yells over to Benny, "We're getting out of here, we're rolling." Suddenly you hear a banging sound. He calls for Benny again. All of a sudden you hear a loud, "Ah!" The crew looks on for Benny. You see Benny getting thrown off the top of a railing in a warehouse. The crew looks up and says, "Holy shit!" Like looking to see what it could be. Suddenly you see the machinery in the warehouse humming and moving. And through the smoke comes the Guyver.
Looking badass, guys.
It looks a really cool shot. Yeah,
it looks really good. And, this whole thing is kind of, the way the movie is lit and shot, it feels like a TV show from the 90s. It feels like something like Earth 2, or something like that. But this set looks awesome. And I think just inherently, factories look cool because you can light them interesting. There's a lot of shadows and stuff, and everything's kind of blue. But the Guyver right here looks fucking awesome, coming out of the darkness, walking through the steam and the pipes and everything.
Out on the streets, looking real neat, reminds me of a Ozzy Osbourne song. Sort of.
Or if it was Ozzy Osbourne going, "Go, go, Guyver Rangers!"
Wow. If it was Paul Stanley. Come on, Guyver, sing, Guyver.
Sing it for me, Guyver.
Come on,
Guyver.
Well, Guyver comes out, tells him to get away from the security guard. DC's like, "Hey, fuck this guy," basically. He tells his crew to take out the Guyver. And one by one, Guyver's beating the crap out of every single one of the Goomba crew.
Yeah, it's cool because one guy, he kind of kicks his leg and breaks it. You can tell, but he's mostly just throwing guys around. But the stunt work is good. It's just at this point, I'm still trying to figure out, is this rated R? Is this PG-13? What is this? But not worrying about that. I would say that overall, this is a fun cold open.
Yeah,
and especially, I know you're going to wrap it up in a second, but I'll say it now. It gives me shades of one of my favorite scenes in one of my favorite movies, which is Batman Begins, when he is the first time he's Batman and he's taking on Falcone and in the docks. And I love that scene because it's shot from the point of view of the goons, and it's shot like a horror movie with the Batman kind of shooting around and everything, and it's supposed to be scary. And I thought that was neat. And here, I feel like maybe even Nolan was sort of like kind of going with that here. This is cool because this is kind of shot like a horror movie where the Guyver is the monster, even though he is the hero. And I think that's really cool. Again, I wish they maybe would have leaned a little bit more into it, but at the same time, I think you could have done an entire Batman movie, like from the point of view of a bad guy and have it be scary. But, Nolan didn't go that way with Batman Begins. He just gave us like a little bit of it. And Wang didn't go that way with Guyver 2. But I appreciated that it's in here and it gives it this dark, and I think where dark hero comes from is this scene right here.
Guyver.
That's now how you were just going to say, yes, I agree. It's just going to be Guyver. And if you don't agree, you're going to be like, Guyver?
Yeah, exactly. So at this point, Guyver takes out the whole crew except for DC. DC's holding on to the security guard who's still alive. Security guard wrestles with DC, able to get his gun. Security guard tries to get a gun away from DC. DC plugs the security guard a few times.
It empties like his whole clip into his gut.
Yeah, and killing him maybe, because they allude to him maybe still being alive at the end. But plugs him. Guyver quickly comes over to grab DC, throws him against a wall. DC freaks out. He's like, no, please don't kill me. Just arrest me, And suddenly this Guyver takes his arm blade and slashes DC across the throat, killing him instantly.
So
After
cool,
that,
dude.
Yeah, it's so cool. Guy falls to the ground, and Guyver's little Benoit ball in his head, that the little laser.
His anal bead.
His anal bead shoots his name. He leaves a calling card on the back wall, the back metal wall that he killed DC on.
Yeah.
Cops roll up. Guyver is able to jump up onto an upper platform, turning back into Sean. Sean looking on, kind of concerned, and sneaking away.
You don't get this reference, but I'll do it for everybody else. Sean crawls under a cardboard box and then sneaks away with the cardboard box on top of him. You could do that as Solid Snake in the Metal Gear games. That's how you hid, because it's like a stealth game. You don't want to like fight people, So one of the things you can do is get like a cardboard box and kind of hide in it, and then they'll kind of like walk past you and shit.
That's funny. You can also do that in Sneaky Sasquatch.
What's Sneaky Snacks? What's Sneak? How can I not say that? What is Sneaky Sasquatch?
It's a fun little mobile game for kids
Okay.
where you're a Sasquatch and you have to elude people by hiding in bushes or hiding behind things and disguising. It's really fun. Kind of like Metal Gear Solid, but not.
Exactly like Metal Gear Solid.
Yes. So, the cops roll up and they realize that the person who's done all the damage they've seen before, and they see the signature on the wall. It says Guyver, and then suddenly the credits flash to, with a really cool font, Guyver Dark Hero, and you roll into the credits, and that's the opening to the movie.
And one thing you kind of pick up right away on this opening scene is how mobile the actor, the stuntman inside the Guyver suit is. Like, you can tell that he has a pretty decent range of motion, and even when he's flipping and doing shit, you never see the zipper or anything on the suit. It has the ability to be shot from like all angles, and it looks fantastic from every angle.
Guyver.
Guyver?
After the long, almost 7 minutes of credits, Sean wakes up from a nightmare on his couch, and he walks over to his TV, turns on what appears to be like a martial art movie, and he goes over to his desk. He starts writing something down in a journal, and then the action on the screen that he's watching is kind of matching the motion on the back of his neck, the two little portal holes where the Guyver comes out of, and it's pulsating. And he's looking like he's trying to fight it. And by the way, those two little holes reminded me of my bearded dragon lizard, because it's a male because under its tail it has two little dots that signify that it's a male, like its testicles almost. And I'm like, oh, is he a bearded dragon? Guyver.
Guyver.
It's our new version of saying the word fuck. It's all about Guyver. So he starts trying to fight this kind of pulsation, and then he's holding a pencil. He snaps the pencil, and that segues into a horrific transformation scene of Sean being turned into the Guyver, camera flashing, very like Tetsudo Iron Man,
yes.
Japanese, neo-punk kind of stuff. It's very shocking and intense, and camera flashes again, and he wakes up from the nightmare.
Dude, that was so cool, and
Guyver.
That was so cool, and I really liked that scene with the flashing lights, the horror element of it. Again, I really wish they leaned more into the horror in this. And yes, I got shades of Tetsuo the Iron Man as well. That was another movie that was a big one. And I'm thinking, wasn't that like around 91, 92?
Yeah, early 90s. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say that, considering how small this budget was, when it was made, knowing what else was coming out around this time, how good it looks, how well made it is so far. It rivals some of the things that I've seen John Carpenter do up around this time. And so I'm like, dude, this is as good or better than some of the stuff I've seen Carpenter make. And if you want to know our take on Carpenter in the 90s, go to our Patreon/Podcasting After Dark for the Carpenter Factor, where we discuss every single one of John Carpenter's movies from the first one all the way up to the newest one that just came out this year. So movies and television shows that he's made. And yeah,
Sorry, I'm trying to look it up while you were talking. I can't find the budget on either Wikipedia or IMDb for this one.
Okay, well, we'll have to ask Kathy when we have her on the show if she has any idea what the budget might be, because I'm assuming it's got to be low budget based on everything that they've done in this movie. But it still looks better than some of the Carpenter stuff in the 90s.
Yes, it does.
I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
Anyways.
And the sets are awesome too. Once we start like actually getting into the spaceship set and the cave set, like these are all sets and they're huge. Like they're actually like tall and big. And I'm like,
I want the playset
impressive.
version of these. I want the toy version of these.
Yeah,
that's what it reminds me of. So Sean wakes up from his nightmare. It's daytime now. He's still on the couch. There's newspaper clippings on the wall of different Guyver attacks. He takes a quick look at the newspaper in front of him and says, "Verdict still out on armored vigilante. Security guard in critical condition. Not expected to recover." I'm like, you think? He shot him like 8 times with that gun.
Yeah, I know.
Anyways, Sean, a.k.a. Guyver, turns his TV on, and Inside Expose pops on, very similar to like Inside Edition, or what was the show, Hard Copy back in the day. That's what it reminded me of.
And the anchor woman looks like a porn star.
I don't. And he's got in front of him at his desk like a binder, like his sketchbook, a binder of drawings that he's done. Inside Expose is going in on a story at Three Pines, Utah, where there may have been a werewolf attack. Doug Curlew and his brother Judd were exploring some caves above the woods where they lived, where Judd was attacked and fatally mauled. Rangers there are calling it a bear attack, but Doug has a different explanation. Suddenly you're introduced to the hillbilly kind of Doug who says, "Yeah, man, I mean, it changed right before my eyes. It was a man, and then it was a thing with claws and teeth, and like one of those cave paintings I showed you that come to life." And suddenly they show the cave paintings, and I can only describe it as maybe a 2 or 3 year old drawing a dinosaur. But next to the dinosaur is kind of an egg-shaped thing with like things hanging off it.
Yeah, and I love how he goes, "You people call me a liar? My brother's dead, man. That ain't no lie." And I was like, I felt that. I was like, he's good. He's actually one of the best actors in the movie, this guy.
Yeah, it's so good. It like Doug is one of the highlights of this movie as well. The guy who plays Doug.
Yes.
As the reporter goes on, We went looking for this cave to verify Doug's story, and we found it. But an archaeological expedition investigating the cave was suspiciously uncooperative when we asked to shoot inside. All of these things are important, guys. So the intro to this movie, which is, the narration, maybe 30 seconds, gives you a real great base if you've never seen the Guyver series, if you're unfamiliar with it. This little sound clip from this news show gives you the plot, basically, of where we're going to go for the next, hour and a half or hour 45 minutes at this point. That's a really cool way to speed up story and get you to where you need to go for a payoff. I really appreciate that. Guyver.
Yeah, me too. Guyver. And we go from one of the best side actors in the entire movie to one of the worst, Mitski or whatever her name is.
Yeah, Mitski. Before we get to Mitski, though, I have to point out, so the 2-year-old drawings that they show on TV, Sean, gets kind of excited about it because the little egg thing that he sees on screen is exactly like he has in his notebooks.
Which I guess he gets those images from his dreams.
Yes, exactly. Then he has a quick flashback to what Corey was saying with Mitski, his former girlfriend.
Now, you say flashback. I think that this is actually in succession, but it felt like a flashback to me. But I think that this is actually in chronological order. But I find it funny that you mentioned that, because my first viewing, I was like, oh, it feels like a flashback. And maybe it's because it has that look, that hazy look to it. But on my second viewing, I was like, I think this is actually supposed to be chronological after the scene we were just on.
I think you're right. I think it's kind of speeding up. It's like flashing forward, basically. Flashing forward for a quick glimpse where he's...
Because I don't think... Ahead. And I will preface this by saying I haven't seen we didn't watch the first movie, okay? And I haven't seen it since probably 1992. But I believe she was the love interest of the first movie, and I think this is just a way of them kind of, getting her out of there. And maybe, I don't know, I'm going through the IMDb really quick, and I actually don't see her in the first movie, so I could be wrong.
Yeah, no, she is Vivian Wu Mitski.
Okay, there she is. Yeah, got it. Okay.
So I don't know if... Hold on.
Oh, it's a different actor. It's same character, different actor, because the Mitski in the first movie actually has an IMDb picture. The Mitski in this one doesn't. This one is Billy Lee. In the first movie, it's sorry, I'm going back and forth. In the first movie, it's Vivian Wu. But I think this is them wrapping up that love interest character arc from the first movie. This movie does want you to have seen the first one, but it does stand on its own. You don't have to, because I don't think I got any less enjoyment out of it by not seeing the first one recently.
No, and I don't feel like I need to revisit Mark Hamill again in that time, because he also did another movie at that time called Slipstream, which was not very good.
I always liked how he looked in Slipstream with his blonde hair and everything, but I never saw it.
I did too. But it was I haven't seen that in decades, but I remember it being disappointing.
Yeah.
But this is a great way to blow off the character. It's basically, they're having an argument where she knows that Sean is the Guyver. He's trying to explain that he's trying to control it. It's not him that's doing the killing. It's the Guyver that's doing the killing. She doesn't believe him. Basically, she's in denial. He's like, look, there was a thing on TV this morning about a werewolf sighting in Utah. And she's like, God, I don't want to hear it anymore. There are no more zoonoids. Kronos is gone. You got to let it go. What's the point of holding on? And she's like, you're getting crazier and crazier. And then suddenly he glares at her. He's like, this isn't going to work, is it? And then suddenly cuts to Sean on the road, kind of like the Incredible Hulk or Werewolf. And he's getting rides from strangers on his way to Utah. Their relationship is over at this point.
And I like how she's like, you got to move on. He still has alien technology inside of him. How do I move on when I'm still the Guyver?
And I'm not going to lie, what he ends up landing on, or who he ends up landing with, or, spoiler, who he ends up getting into a relationship with, she accepts him for who he is. Isn't that what we all want in life?
Yeah. Guyver
to be accepted for who we are.
Yeah.
if we collect DVDs or we collect toys or we collect, can we just be accepted for what we collect?
Seriously.
Sorry.
Guyver.
sorry for the long. This is a moment of appreciation for being appreciated for who we are. And we appreciate all of you listening to us for who we are, even if you feel like we're trashing this movie, which I don't think we are, actually. We're just giving it its due diligence.
We could go harder, guys. We could go so much harder, but we don't do that here.
Exactly.
Now, I'll say, Zach, he's riding cross country, quote unquote cross country up to Simi Valley and everything. And I love how they're like, there's a sign there that says like Utah, Salt Lake City, like
the Beehive State.
Yeah, and I can only imagine as they're putting that sign up that the production crew and real cars are driving by. They're like, where are we? What is happening right now?
There's a guy in the car, and his kid is like, Daddy, we are not in California. Where's Disneyland? And the wife's like, I knew.
Oh my God, I got to turn around.
Before we had Waze and Google Maps, we winged it. Unless we had a,
Atlas.
paper map.
Yeah.
Yes. Which is great wrapping paper now, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
You can take all those old maps and use them as wrapping paper. If you haven't thrown them out already. So, anyways, he finally gets a ride to a local diner in Utah. He's made it. Asks the man behind the counter where the archaeological dig is. The man says, are you going to buy something? And he says, yes. He buys a little bit of food. And the man says, don't know nothing about that. They cut to a quick shot of a woman watching him listening. She walks over with a big case of beer and asks Sean what he wants with the dig. He says he just needs to see it. She asks him if he's with the press, and she says it's a private site. He opens up his notepad to show her all the drawings that he's been having that are connected to the site. She kind of blows him off at first, but suddenly she sees drawings that are very familiar with the cave drawings that she's been looking at as well. She looks at him and says, I can't help you, and she goes to leave. He follows after. He begs her to take him. She throws the food in the back of the truck. Damn, if there are eggs in there, they're not eggs anymore. They're scrambled.
Spoiler alert, there's nothing except for bread at the top. Everything else is like styrofoam or something. You can tell by the way she's holding the bag. It has like no weight to it whatsoever.
But that case of beer looks legit.
Yeah, that is legit, because when she hands it off to the other girl later, like you can tell the case of beer is real. The bag of food is fake. And of course, also, Corey, she's a beautiful woman, but like a typical 80s/early 90s movie that they tell us that she's a nerd by giving her giant nerd glasses.
Oh, and she's got those great moments where she takes her glasses off to get serious, It's cliche now. It was probably cliche then. But whatever. Fortunately, she's a good actor, so
yeah, she's great.
It doesn't take away from her performance. But yes, so she goes to take off. After she throws her stuff in the truck, she refuses to help him, drives off, and he's like, I need to know what's there at that dig. Suddenly, she shows back up. She yells at him to get in, gets in the truck, and they drive off to the archaeological site. She changed her mind. She introduces herself as Corey Edwards, or Corrine. Actually, that's what it's short for.
Yeah. Yeah, so she doesn't spell it the same way I do. She spells it Cori.
Yes, exactly. She's not Sleazy C. She goes down the whole rigmarole. I'm a researcher up at the dig. She's like, and you are? Sean Barker. And she goes, uh-huh. Like she doesn't buy his name, right?
Yeah.
And he goes, look, I didn't mean to freak you out back there. This is just important to me. And he asks, why'd you come back? And she goes, because I'm a scientist, damn it.
Guyver.
Anyways, they get to the excavation site. It's pretty vast. It's a nice campground. There's about 10 trucks there, 10 cars there. That's important, by the way, because I'm going to note that at the end of the movie.
Also, not enough beer for all the people that are there.
No, hell no. That's like one little... Well, they are scientists, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they don't all drink.
There's not one beer per person, yes?
Well, can I sip this? Does anyone have a straw?
It's like Miller Lite or something,
Right. They get out of the truck. Sean's like amazed at what he sees. Corey leads him into the site. She tells him just to be cool and follow her lead. Sean says, I hope I'm not getting you into trouble. She's like, not if you do what I say. She walks by a woman named Mary, gives her the case of beer. Sean gives her groceries as well, and they walk off.
And by the way, I'm not sure if this is the actual woman, but David Hayter met his wife, his future wife, on this set, and it's not like the main actress lady that we're talking about. So it's one of, I think, the 3 other women on here, not the one that becomes a Zoonoid, but there's like 2 or 3 other like background students, archaeologists, and I think one of those became his wife. They met on the set. So that's nice.
That's
I mean,
cool.
that's sweet. It's funny because like, you know, we got movies like when John Carpenter did Somebody's Watching Me, and you know, we were talking about how terrible that movie is, but at the same time it was big for Carpenter because, you know, he met his wife on that one. So it's, I don't know, man, sometimes movies exist and maybe they aren't that important to us, but they're important to the people who worked on them for whatever reason.
Yeah, I just found out the you know, that movie Monster Squad. The older sister who they can speak German. Yeah. And then they find out she's not a virgin. She was in a movie called Teen Witch with an actor named Dan Gauthier. They ended up meeting each other on set, and they've been married ever since. And they opened up an acting studio in Palm Desert or something like that.
That's great. And I think David Hayter's still with his wife too. That's the shit that's great, man. That's the kind of shit that I love hearing.
I love that. It's great.
Hey everybody, co-host Corey here. I just wanted to take a second and say thank you to all of our Patreon members who help support the show. Each month, they get access to The Carpenter Factor, Wrap Up After Dark, and all kinds of other fun exclusive content. You can sign up for our Patreon over at patreon.com/podcastingafterdark. Again, that's patreon.com/podcastingafterdark. Other ways you can help support the show and help us grow is leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. We also have a merch store where you can pick up a t-shirt or 2, as well as some other fun items. You can find every link to our podcatchers, to our merch store, to Patreon, everything at podcastingafterdark.com. That's podcastingafterdark.com. Now back to the show.
From there, they make their way to the cave site where they're...
Sorry, can I just say, because guys and gals, we're going to be here for the rest of the movie. So essentially, there's 2 sites next to each other, you know, obviously near each other. There's the campsite, which has multiple tents and everything like that, surrounded by woods. You know, it's like in the woods, looks like a national park type of thing. And then there's a cave that when they go inside, it's clearly a set, you know, like it was built in like a warehouse because it's really tall. But essentially, these are, and then inside the cave is the ship that we'll get to eventually. These are essentially the 3 locations that we will be living at for the next hour and like 40 minutes.
Guyver. Corey walks past, 2 or 3 security guards that are waiting outside, and she basically says, you know, he's with me about Sean. They walk into the cave. As they're going in there, Sean says, do all archaeological expeditions have this much security? Corey says, well, we didn't until your buddy on TV broke in. Yep. Call back to Doug.
Yep.
One of Corey's coworkers calls her over, and she tells Sean to wait where he's at.
Dude, this coworker, this female, young African-American lady, she looked so familiar to me. But I couldn't figure out who she was on IMDb, and I don't think actually she's done anything else, but I swear to God I've seen her somewhere before.
She looked very familiar, and she doesn't have a name in the movie. A lot of these actors don't have names, which is very unfortunate.
Yeah, that's why I was waiting. Even with subtitles on, I was like, okay, maybe I'll get her name on the second viewing, and nope, nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Corey goes off with her coworker to look at something, and Sean wanders through the cave. He's looking at various etchings on the wall, similar to the drawings in his notebook. He sees a flash of people taking pictures, and they're taking pictures of the exact same drawings from his notebook. Sean's looking excited, like he's found his home. He's found where he needs to get all the answers to the clues in his back of his neck, his bearded dragon testicle neck.
Testicles.
Suddenly, Corey shows up behind him and says, you shouldn't wander off like that. As she's talking to him, an older man walks in with two other dudes. The older man is Corey's dad, Marcus Edwards, Dr. Edwards. Arlen Crane, who you'll later find out is the main villain of this, and the security guard Gus Volker, who is one of the main villains as well. Arlen Crane is saying, if we don't hit pay dirt soon, they're going to shut us down. Marcus says, I'm tired of treating this expedition like an oil well. And Arlen's trying to reason with him and goes, I know, but this is management. We had an agreement. I find you your pay dirt, and we run the show my way. And Arlen says, well, that's what I want. I'm going to keep them away as long as I can. Just do a good job, okay? And Marcus goes, I can't make miracles. And Arlen Crane says, yes, you can. That's why you're here. Corey walks over to interrupt them, and Corey introduces Sean to her dad. Arlen Crane seems like a supportive boss, and Gus Volker, he just seems like a generic security guard at this point.
Yeah, he's very goonish.
Arlen and Gus walk off. Corey takes Sean deeper into the cave, past a beautiful waterfall, and shows Sean the main site where they're digging. She calls up to Bob, who you'll get to know throughout this whole thing, and to show Sean the ropes. And they walk past a guy who's blurry. The camera's blurry at this point.
Yeah.
Actually, he's blurry many times when Atkins is in the shot. But you get a look at you get a concerned look at one of the quote-unquote scientists who is Atkins. Sean's watching Bob brushing away dirt on what appears to be bones. Sean whispers the word Lisker, because that's one of the zoonoids from the last one.
Yeah, then right. I think there's names for what style of xenomorph. Oh shit, what they call
zoonoids?
Zoonoid. There you go. Yeah, I think there's different names for the different styles that they are. I believe, if I remember correctly. But yeah, I think you kind of can recognize it, and it looks cool. There's honestly, the sculpture of the bones look neat,
Yeah.
And I think Bob calls it out, they think it's a dinosaur type, but it's too small to be that dinosaur.
Yeah,
they don't really
he thinks
know why.
Yeah, he thinks it's a pachycephalosaur.
Okay.
And that's notable because he says, well, we think it's some variety of pachycephalosaur, although it's small for the family. Just note that for a little bit further on in the movie. By the way, I did talk to text when I was taking notes for this. And zoonoid, if you say zoonoid and talk to text, it comes up Zoe annoyed. So just so you know, if I say Zoe annoyed, it's because I'm reading my talk to text notes, and that's why. Anyways, Bob's talking to Sean, and he continues to say, we got to carbon date this. Camera fades off. Cut to Sean lying in the back of Corey's truck, lying down. Corey approaches and says, wow, looks like you really immersed yourself here. Sean's like, yeah, it was like I was digging up parts of myself. And then Corey's kind of flirting with him at this point. There's a lot of flirting that goes on. And side note, this movie features no nudity or sex, and I think that's worth noting in a rated R film. And there's a considerable amount of flirting that goes on through this. And I think in a typical, quote unquote, low budget B movie, science fiction movie, this movie would be filled with a lot of quote unquote TNA. And, Steve Wang went on record to say that he thinks that maybe might have hurt the success of the film, that it didn't feature that. But I think that deserves some props for not caving in and doing what most films at this time did. Guyver.
Well, don't give those props out too quickly, because apparently all the ladies in this movie had to get into skimpy lingerie and do a photo shoot for Femme Fatale's magazine, which I collected back in the day, and I would have, I enjoyed. But I believe that even the actress who talks, the actress who plays Corey, even talks about it's kind of weird that they told us that they weren't trying to sell the sex in the movie because our characters were strong and independent and capable, and yet we have to get into lingerie, and I think they were kind of just do it, type of thing, for promotional aspects of it for the Femme Fatales magazine. So I think that there was a little bit of bad taste in their mouth from that experience.
Yeah,
but we can talk to her more about that if she
that's
wants
understandable.
To.
Yeah. Well, kudos to the film not featuring that, but that sucks that they didn't do that they caved in that way. Caved, no pun intended. Anyways,
Guyver.
Guyver. She's flirting with Sean, kind of flirty with Sean. She's saying, you're not some sort of archaeological groupie, are you? Corey says, I just can't figure it out. Why is it so important that you're here? Where did you see those drawings? And Sean says, I told you. And Corey goes, oh, yeah. She goes, look, I brought you here like you asked. Don't you think I deserve a real explanation? Because Sean's trying to blow her off, right? He starts to try to tell Corey something. He says, look, Corey, I want to, but I can't. I don't really know what I'm looking for. And then Corey, at this point, annoyed with him, says, well, maybe we should just call this today a field trip, and I'll drop you off. And she gets upset, and Sean says, look, I've got nowhere else to go. And Corey says, that's not good enough. She looks annoyed with him, but then she kind of gets close to his face and looks like they're about to kiss, but they don't. Cut to Doug, the hillbilly, with a shotgun out in the forest, and he's got like a reporter or photographer with him who says, look, they're not going to find no werewolf here. And Doug says, just hold on to your checkbook. Just hold on to your checkbook, basically. Like, give me a little bit more time.
Yeah.
Cut to a quick shot of a, quote, werewolf / monster / zoonoid / zoeanoid looking at them nearby. Cut back to Sean and Corey walking towards the main site area. And as they're talking, their small talk continues. Corey's talking about how she considers herself an outlaw of science. And then she was thinking about getting jackets made up because they have unconventional theories. They look at wild things people would laugh at in tabloids. They look at Bigfoot. They look at crop circles. Sean asks about the cave paintings and what her theory is on that. And Corey says she wants to tell him, but she can't, kind of hearkening back to their earlier conversation. Suddenly you hear, Sean says, touche. Suddenly you hear a big scream, and they both are startled by it. Corey thinks it's another bear attack. Sean tells Corey to get help, and he says he'll go take care of the bear. They run off in different directions, and Corey stops, and she goes, take care of the bear?
Of the bear?
Oh, shit. Yeah. Guyver. Cut back to Doug and the reporter or photographer. Doug's yelling at the reporter to take a picture of the werewolf that is, in fact, a big old monster / zoonoid. The photographer tells Doug to shoot at it. Doug wants to make sure he gets his money. The monster runs towards them. Doug pulls the trigger. You cut back to Sean running towards the melee. Cut back to Corey, who gets to the site. She tells Professor Atkins, and her dad.
I know you picked up on that.
Yes.
His name, Atkins, yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Marcus, she tells her Atkins and her dad that there's been another bear attack. Atkins says he goes to get it. He'll go get his gun. Corey says, hurry, because Sean's out there. And Atkins says, what? Like annoyed, like confused. Like, why is this guy out there going to fight a bear, quote unquote? Cut back to Sean running towards the monster. He yells, Guyver. And he transforms into the Guyver as the monster approaches Doug and the reporter. This is a little confusing because Doug was kind of in front of the photographer reporter, but then the monster is able to knock the shotgun out of the way, and he grabs the photographer.
Like, he knocks off the photographer's head. Unfortunately, the camera's like so zoomed in, you can barely see what's happening, but he knocks off the top of the head, and then he goes after Doug, knocks the shotgun out of the way because Doug's trying to reload the thing and everything, and he kind of picks Doug up. And I like how Doug pisses himself, like you see the pee come out of his shoes. But I'm like, right here, I'm like, oh, the first time I watched it was so quick when the reporter got his head knocked off. I was like, maybe I blinked. I must have missed something. I kind of rewound it, and I was like, no, that was it. Like, it's so, you don't even see it.
You don't see it, and it's a payoff that didn't pay off, basically.
Yeah, no, sadly.
Because at this point now, the zoonoid kind of throws Doug to the ground, and Guyver shows up to battle the zoonoid. But when he gets over to him, he says, where'd you come from? I destroyed all of you. They have an epic Power Ranger style fight in their suits. It's badass.
Yeah, and it's always this fight, every fight, there's also like the guy who's in the Guyver suit is like doing like anime moves where he's, jumping up in the air with his one leg straight, the other leg up, and his one arm straight, the other arm back. It's like right out of like a frame of the anime. It looks amazing. And this whole fight is really good. Every Guyver slash Zoonoid fight is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. You can see the wires occasionally, but honestly, if anything, I love that shit. I love being able to see the wires occasionally. Like, that's the one thing I wouldn't want to, like, change about this movie.
Exactly. Right. I totally agree. Throughout this battle, the Zoonoid, rips a tree out of the ground and uses it like it's a battering ram towards Guyver, but Guyver's able to battle back and kind of fend him off.
And then eventually slices him in the forehead, which will be important later.
Exactly.
Or it slices the Zoonoid in the forehead because the guys and gals, if you don't know, and I guess this is probably more explained in the first movie, but the Zoonoids, it's not this, they transform into the monster once and then they're stuck that way. They can go back and forth at will. Everything is at will. It's not a werewolf scenario. They can change fully at will. And I always thought that was really cool. I'd like that a lot.
Yeah, no, I agree. Atkins and Corey show up at the scene, and the Zoonoid and Guyver kind of go their separate ways. They rush over to Doug to check on him. He freaks out because Sean shows up out of nowhere. And Sean's like, "Don't come near me. You're one of them." Atkins says he's in shock. He tells some random dude that shows up with them to get a blanket. No, get 2 blankets, he says.
As they've already, like, walked through the dead body. Like, they walk through the crime scene, like, no problem with the dead body right there. Like the guy's head is only, like, 5 feet away from his body, but yet everyone who tramples the crime scene walks through that space. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, they don't even, like, they're so super dismissive. They're like, well, he's already dead, but we need to check on the person that's alive.
Yeah.
And, Sean's like, "I'm sorry I didn't get here sooner." Corey's like, "Thank God you didn't. You could have been killed. What'd you think you were going to do?" And Atkins goes, "I was wondering that myself."
Yeah,
wink, wink.
Kind of has like a camera dolly in on his face while he's kind of looking concerned.
Right. Doug gets taken to the truck. Same with the body. Atkins is looking on the ground and sees something that looks like a piece of flesh.
I think it's the chunk that he sliced off of his forehead.
Yep. And he puts it in his pocket. Sean sees him do that, and then they bring the body of the dead photographer back to the main site at campground as well. And then you cut back to the campsite in just a moment.
Yeah, and I gotta say, like, and I think it's the director in all of this, because I think these actors are very competent and can do a lot. But a lot of times when the camera's like locked on somebody like Atkins right here, right? You can just tell everything is like, give me your headshot for concerned, and then Atkins does it. It's and then there's later on where like David Hayter, it's like, okay, give me your pensive look, and it's all the looks that acting 101 sort of teaches you. Like, put your fingers on your lip and look off to the left. Like, it's all the most generic sort of reaction shots and the camera. And we're just, at this point though, as much as like, I'm like, oh, that's funny, I'm just happy when any shot of an actor's in focus at this point. Like, I'm like, hey, his Atkins' face was in focus, because like next scene and like couple scenes later, he's going to be out of focus in like every fucking shot.
Yeah, it's really frustrating. Guyver.
Yeah. Guyver.
When you cut back to the main site, they're a ranger truck is driving off the dead body, and probably Doug is in there too. It's the last time you see Doug. You don't see him anymore after this,
which is a shame, because again, he was great.
Right. Sean's looking around kind of nervously and glances and sees Atkins kind of walking off into the bushes. Sean asks himself, "Who are you?" He follows him. He overhears Atkins on a CB radio saying that he's identified Sean to whoever he's talking to. And he says, the analysis of the sample that he found should, and he's about to say something else, but then Sean stupidly, who's watching him nearby, snaps a twig that he's while he's watching him. Atkins ends his call.
And I do like how when he steps on the twig and snaps it, like, I do like how Sean's like, fuck. Like, he mouths exactly. Like, fuck, I like that.
Right. Atkins spots him and says, "What did you hear?" Sean goes, "What? Nothing. I didn't hear anything." Atkins says, "Why'd you follow me?" Sean goes, I saw you leave the camp in a hurry. I just figured you'd seen the bear again. And Atkins says, we both know there wasn't any bear.
And I love how Atkins is no pushover here. Like, he clocks him immediately, and there's no talking out of it, basically, for Sean.
Yeah, I like this exchange. It's a good acting scene because, Atkins says, we both know there wasn't any bear. And Sean goes, we do? And Atkins says, spare me the dumb act. I know you got claws you ain't showing. And Sean goes, claws? I'm not the one with claws. Atkins says, I don't know what you people are up to, but innocent people are getting killed, and I can't allow that to happen. Atkins pulls a gun on Sean and says, you won't live long enough to give me away. At that same moment, Crane and Volker are walking towards them in the forest, having a conversation. And Crane says to Volker, what were you doing? Volker says, sorry, Mr. Crane. Crane says, tell the others we may have an active, but doesn't say any more than that, and spots Atkins and Sean, says, what are you men doing here? Sean covers for Atkins and says to Mr. Crane, we thought we saw a bear again, Mr. Crane. And Crane goes, what are you doing out here? For God's sake, stay in camp. We don't want any more corpses. And they start to walk off. Atkins tells Sean to wait, but he continues following Crane towards the camp. And then Atkins, who still kind of stays behind, is whispering to himself, what are you doing here? Who are you? That's the end of that scene. Guyver. It's a cool moment because you don't know yet who, like, you only know that Crane is the operations manager, Volker is the head of security. You don't know their role in all of this. You won't know it for a little bit longer. There's still a good piece of mystery as to their role in this thing. It just seems like they're having a normal conversation about something that maybe is irrelevant to what's going on, but it's not. Guyver.
Yeah, and I mean, I like all this stuff. I really, really do. I like where it's going. It's just, in hindsight, you look back at it now, and we have 30 more minutes before we get to the next action scene. And
yeah, so this has been, up until this point, this has been maybe 30 or 40 minutes into the movie, and these scenes go a lot longer than the way that I'm describing them. I'm actually describing them a lot faster than they move in said movie, which is a detriment to the film because the pacing is very slow.
Yeah. It is. That's, again, if there's one thing I could change of everything, it would be to just trim this movie down to an hour and a half. And I truly believe you wouldn't lose a single scene. I think you could just trim a minute or two off of every scene and you would get that 30 minutes down.
Exactly. I agree. The next shot is of a man on a TV monitor talking to someone saying, and this man, by the way, is named Mr. Gouo. Gouo.
Yeah, and I'm guessing we probably need to watch the first movie to get more of him, but we get it. He's the big bad. He's the company, the head of the company. We understand.
He's Ronnie Cox. He's Ronnie Cox in RoboCop.
Total Recall. Oh yeah, RoboCop and Total Recall too.
And Total Recall too.
Yeah.
Talk about typecasting, basically.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
But I'm okay with that kind of typecasting.
Yeah, we love Ronnie Cox. Yeah, but remember he was in the car, and he was very much different from that typecasting.
Oh, and I mean, Ronnie Cox is great. Deliverance as well, but I'm just saying, like, Paul Verhoeven directed both movies. Paul Verhoeven directed him pretty much the same way in both movies.
And that is my favorite Ronnie Cox, is the 80s head of a company, type of thing.
By the way, the new RoboCop documentary that just came out on Blu-ray, there's a hilarious moment where Peter Weller is in an elevator in his RoboCop suit going up to set, and the guy with him has Oreos, and Peter Weller in character goes, RoboCop wants Oreos. And the guy's like, RoboCop doesn't get Oreos. And Weller goes, RoboCop want Oreos now, or something like that. And so he's following him. The elevator opens and they're walking onto like a platform, and he goes, RoboCop want Oreos now.
Dude, I have the same Blu-ray, but I haven't started watching it yet. How many discs or how many episodes are you in? Because I know each episode's like an hour, and so it's 4 hours long essentially.
I actually haven't gotten to this part of the episode. I just saw a clip of it online.
Okay.
For anyone wondering, it's worth the physical Blu-ray apparently goes for a lot on eBay because it's sold out now. So
really? We just bought it when it came out. I didn't even pre-ordered it. I just bought it on Amazon when it came out. I didn't know it was sold out.
Hey, Guillermo del Toro said it right. Like physical media, if you buy physical media, you're basically holding the keys to the castle, ladies and gentlemen. So
I just got my Cuffs Blu-ray in the mail.
Yes, you did. Guyver. So the guy in the monitor, Goyu, or the evil guy, he's basically talking to someone at the campsite saying, we don't need this kind of attention. If you can't keep a tighter rein on your lieutenants, and the man he's talking to on the other end is whispering, going, I'm sorry, sir. I'll correct my error. You don't know who it is yet because you don't see, the camera's not showing you who it is. But the person at the base camp says, but it did bring something to light. The Guyver is here. He must be someone in the camp. And Goyu on the TV screen says, the hunted comes to the hunter. Find out who he is and bring him here. Quietly. The unknown man whispering says, don't worry, sir. I can handle it. Cut to the inside of the cave and then flashing to Sean, who's now sleeping on a cot in a tent, having a nightmare back and forth between the cave and the two holes on the back of his neck pulsing, the bearded dragon testicles. And he's having his nightmare, and suddenly something in the cave, while he's having his nightmare, starts to break away in the rocks. His neck continues pulsing faster and faster. Steam rises in the cave. Something breaks out, and a blue light shines behind it, causing Sean to wake up. From there, you cut to Sean standing on top of a rock, looking kind of pensively, thinking. Cut to two, that could have cut that scene. Cut to two interiors. Cut to the interior of a cave with a random woman with a hard hat walking over to Bob while he's digging. She looks up at the wall that he's digging at, and she notices that something wasn't there yesterday. She takes a pickaxe and starts carving into the wall. Cut to Corey with another archaeologist, the one she was talking to earlier, who's asking if Corey likes Sean. She's like, you can tell me. You like him. Corey says, none of your business. Friend says, Friend says, I'm just excited for you, that's all. It'd be nice to know that someone's finding a little romance. Corey says,
I wish you knew who her friend was, man. She was a smoke show, dude.
Corey says, all right, he's cute, but nothing's happened. He's a little, and starts to motion the cuckoo sign. Sean walks up behind her with coffee. She kind of gets embarrassed, and they start giggling. And Sean says, did I miss something? And she goes, no, Sean, have a seat. And she tells her friend, that'll be all. And her friend walks off.
I like how Sean's like, did I miss anything, Guyver?
Did I miss anything, Guyver? Coffee, Guyver. Cream, Guyver.
Every time he says it, it shoots out of his back. But it like hangs there and then shoots back in, you know?
Right, exactly. So he asks Corey, what kind of skeletons are we digging up again? Corey says, well, we're not sure, but we think it's some kind of pachycephalosaur, although it's small for that genus. She literally says exactly what Bob said to him earlier, and Sean says, that's funny. It's almost word for word what Bob had said. What are you guys hiding? They're not dinosaurs at all, are they? Corey looks nervous. She gets close to Sean and says, look, everybody here knows what we're digging for. Sean says, so why all the secrecy? Corey says, we just can't go spouting crazy theories to the world until we have the hard evidence to back it up. Dad and I have been putting this puzzle together for years, for 5 years, just praying it isn't another explainable mystery. If we're wrong again, Sean says, so why not just stick to the safer stuff? Corey says, why don't you go home? And she takes off her glasses. This is when she takes her glasses off. She says, I'm not going to let anybody take this away from us. Cut to the random woman with Bob digging away at the rock. And something gets exposed and she feels it. And she says it feels like skin. Then they tap on it, but it makes a metal sound.
Yeah.
Bob says, that doesn't sound like leather to me. They call over Dr. Edwards, Corey's dad. He taps on it with his trowel. He gets very excited. He says, this is wonderful. Call my daughter. Inform Mr. Crane. Get everyone in here on the double. I think we found it. Boing, Guyver.
Bang, Guyver.
Corey and Sean arrive on the scene. She asks her dad what's going on, and her dad says, I think 5 years of research finally paid off. Crane shows up very anxious. asking when they will know for sure. Marcus says, "Be patient, Arlen. We beat your deadline. Just give us time to do this right." Crane says, "But there's been a complication. Something's come up." Marcus says, "Please, Arlen." It's basically like, chill the fuck out.
Chill, motherfucker, chill. We got here faster than we even thought.
Right. And then suddenly now everybody's digging on this site. And this is a kind of a montage scene that goes on once again, probably like 5 or 6, 7 minutes longer than it needs to.
Yep. Here we go. I wrote it down here. I go, montage time, baby.
Yeah. And Les Claypool is not playing Primus. The camera pans past
God, I'm such
everybody.
an idiot for fucking thinking that was. But like, what are the chances that someone else's name would be Les Claypool? Like, what are the chances?
It's Les Claypool the third, so he's got to be related. I looked online. I looked to see if they were related. I couldn't find anything connected to it, but he's got to be. God. Anyways, they continue to dig at this thing, and they realize that it's huge.
Like my dick. Guyver.
Bob shows up excited with some basically like blueprints, of the etching of what it's projected to look like.
Yeah, I think that's some kind of like seismic graph or something, because it's like it's got the wiggly lines but making the whole thing. But yeah, it's basically, you find out that it goes to the top of the mountain essentially. Like the ship is huge. Whatever, or you'll know that it's a ship later, but right now whatever it is huge. Like my Guyver.
Like my Guyver. While they're looking at the picture, Crane says, the cave paintings are accurate representations. Edwards speculates that this thing sinks down another 40 meters. Just basically saying it's huge. And then Sean whispers, "It's a ship." Camera pans away to reveal a giant alien-looking ship that they've etched away with, they have scaffolding set up all around it to dig at it.
And is this the shot where like the reveal happens and everything? Is that this right now?
Guyver.
Okay. So yeah, so this is the scene where like, yeah, and actually the music is actually good in this scene because it kind of builds up to this heroics, crescendo type of thing. But this is the shot where, yeah, everyone's standing there looking at this thing, and that dollies in. And it dollies in on Sean. You're like, great. Dollies in on Corey. She's happy. Great. And I'll give you Marcus. But then it also dollies in on Bob, Atkins, Crane, random guy number 1, random lady number 2, random person. I'm exaggerating a smidge right there, but like seriously, it's like 4 people more than should be done. And I was looking on IMDb, and Wang is credited as one of the editors, and it's like, yeah, dude, you needed to spend some money on a proper editor for this movie, and you needed to stay out of the fucking editing bay and let somebody trim this thing down to fucking an hour and a half, like we said. And one of the things like would be these shots. I mean, I could already see it. I know you could see it too, dude. You're like, why are we dollying in on every single person here? And it's not even as a group. Then do it as a group. You know what I mean? But no, everyone gets their own individual dolly. And then I'm just like, no, man, fucking, I don't care about half these people. So cut them. Fucking cut them.
Yeah, I agree that, if they just did a wide shot of everybody looking on in amazement and then cut to Sean putting his hand on Corey's shoulder, because that's relevant, because he puts his hand on Corey's shoulder, signifying that their relationship's getting a little bit closer.
Yeah.
And that he cares about her.
And
right?
Boom. And that's what and that's one shot right there, or 2 at the most. But boom, you cut out realistically 45 to 60 seconds of the movie by cutting out all those other shots.
Because what happens next is even more relevant, I think, overall, and it's in the dialogue, and that's important. It's in the dialogue, and instead of this shot that goes on way too long, you fade into a celebration party at camp.
They're having fun with that 12-pack of Miller Lite that they brought.
Hey guys, this is delicious. Who wants to do some beer shots? Can we do some water shots or? Okay, so
fucking nerds.
Corey's looking at samples under a microscope.
I am.
Guyver. And she takes a look at whatever she's looking at under the microscope. She bites her lip and she turns around and grabs her jacket and goes to the party. She's curious about something. She finds Bob and asks if he's seen Sean, and he says, "Not lately." Not lately. Cut to Sean inside the cave looking at the ship, and Corey walks up behind him, asks him if he's okay. Corey says, "I still can't believe it." Corey says, "We came here to find anything that would suggest ancient alien visitation. We would have settled for alien beer cans. Instead, we got 5 years of getting laughed at, our research ignored by our colleagues. But the best part, I now have the greatest playground a girl could ever wish for. Look at this." And it's the sample that she was looking at earlier. "It's organic. It was grown. It's alive, Sean. This thing must have been powered by photosynthesis. Okay, that's all a theory, but with funding we can find out. We might even be able to duplicate it. Imagine being able to grow a machine. No more dirty factories, no more pollution." Sean's looking at her and smiling. She goes, "What? What?" He goes, "Nothing. I can see why they call you an outlaw. You haven't even stepped inside and you're already saving the world. What can I say? I'm an optimist." And Sean says, "Wish I could see the world like that." And suddenly it looked like they're going to make out. And she's like, "We're missing the party." Sean goes, "I'm not missing anything." She goes, "Come on, let's go. Guyver."
I wish that whenever he said you're an outlaw, it'd kick in, "I'm an outlaw."
"I'm an outlaw." And then I would go, "I'm a cowboy, baby. I used to be cool when I wasn't political."
Oh, Kid Rock.
Talking about Kid Rock, you suck Kid Rock now. Man, used to be so cool back in the day. Back in the day, I was like, this dude's cool, man. Yeah. He's like blue collar. Now he's a fucking asshole.
Now he's a fucking asshole because the culture wars have destroyed us. Yeah, dude, like, I like all of this concepts and ideas that they're playing with here. This is like some ancient alien shit, which I love that kind of shit. And, you know, I love everything that's happening here. I wish it didn't, I wish we weren't at like the hour mark of a 2-hour film at this point. You know, it's like, come on. But what we're given right now, I think is fucking cool, and I'm on board. I mean, I'm on board the entire movie, even with my gripes. I will say this: the movie never fully loses me, even with like the gripes that I have. I'm on board with it the entire fucking time.
I agree. Me too, and me too. So at this point, they're starting to walk back to the party, but then Sean hears a hissing sound. Asks Corey if she heard that. She says no. No, I'm listening to Podcasting After Dark with Zach and the other Corey. Cut back to a party, and two dudes have a drunk Volker in between them.
Yes, so they're carrying him out, and I know you got this fucking reference because as they're leaving sort of the party, and it's clearly just a throwaway reference, a drunken Volker's looking at the two guards, and he goes, "You want to see something really scary?" And that is totally an homage or reference to the Dan Aykroyd scene in Twilight Zone, the movie, when he's with what's his name, Bob Einstein's brother, what's his name,
Albert Brooks.
Albert Brooks is driving the car. Dan Aykroyd is in the passenger seat. So he wants to see something really scary, and then he turns around. And he's like this ghoul thing. It's a very famous scene, and Volker is they're definitely homaging it right here.
That scene terrified me as a kid. I can't believe I saw that as a kid. Mom, shame on you.
That scene terrified me as a kid, but now as an adult, the Vic Morrow death scene terrifies me.
Yes. Mom, shame on you.
Go watch on Shudder, guys and gals. There's a great series. I think there was only 2 seasons called Cursed Films. And every episode they will talk about a different, quote unquote, cursed film. Obviously, one of the ones they talk about is Poltergeist because, the older sister, dies, and then the young girl dies in part 3 and everything. But yeah, but they ended it with the Twilight Zone, Vic Morrow thing. And my God, they showed it. I didn't expect them to actually show the clip of Vic Morrow carrying the kids and everything. And my wife Myra watched it with me, but she never had heard of it. I had always heard of it and I'd known about it, but watching it, it's gut wrenching. It's horrifying.
Guyver.
Sorry, guys. Anyways,
you're gonna be so handsome when you get older.
Oh, when you grow up, you're gonna be so handsome. What about now? What about now?
What about now, Mom?
When you grow up? Ah.
Cut to so
Carol never listens. It's okay.
No, it's all good. I love my mom. Y'all know I do. So after drunk Volker walks off, Sean looks at him nervously, flashes back to fighting the monster earlier, and realizes that it's Volker.
Oh,
who, by the way, if you say Volker and talk to text, it comes up as vulgar.
Yeah, because you see the cut across his forehead, basically.
Yes,
that's what gives it away.
Yes. Corey goes into Sean's with Corey, but Corey goes into the tent for a moment, and Atkins grabs Sean and pulls him away and asks, "What do you know about the Kronos Corporation?" Sean acts like he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's like, "What are you talking about, man?" Atkins says, "Come on. You dated a Mizuki Sagawa, whose father worked for Kronos. He was murdered shortly before the LA branch was destroyed. Do you know anything about that?" So you don't have to see the original movie because you found it out all right there.
Yeah. And this is when he's like, oh, the LA branch.
Yeah, Sean goes, "I only know about what I read in the papers." And then Atkins goes, "Hey, less of that shit, all right?" Atkins still has a hold of him. Sean's like, "Let go of me. I don't know anything." And Atkins goes, "You knew enough to know about the claws that weren't yours." Sean says, "What?" Atkins says, "You said the claws weren't yours, so who are they? I want to know about Kronos and what they do." And Sean says, "Why? You said Kronos was destroyed." "Kronos LA." And Sean goes, "Kronos LA?" Atkins goes, "We know Kronos is worldwide, but we don't know what those things are. We found breeding tubes and blood samples, but never any bodies." Sean finally caves and turns back to Atkins and says, "All right, look. Kronos is those things, the whole organization. They look human, but they're not. They change." Atkins goes, "You serious, aren't you?" Sean says, "Yeah. You saw that dead guy last night? The thing that killed him is one of the guys in the camp." Atkins goes, "Then why didn't he kill you?" And suddenly Corey shows up and says, "Oh, hi, guys." Basically, interrupts them. And Sean says, "I'll tell you later." And Atkins goes, "No, you'll tell me now. Don't make me arrest you." Sean goes, "Here?" Corey says, "Everything okay?" Sean says, "Yeah, it's fine." And he starts to walk off. And Atkins says, "Kid, you got to get your priorities straight." Sean and Corey walk off back to the party, and Atkins goes in the other direction. Probably to go, on his CB and talk to his good buddies on the CB radio.
Crazy Gooter coming at you sideways. Ooh.
Guyver. Guyver.
Yeah, dude, this is cool. We haven't really said it, but I'm going to guess you felt the same way. This feels like a 90s TV show. It could be a 90s TV show. And honestly, it has all the setup to be an ongoing TV show. Like the fact that the Kronos, Corporation is bigger. They could go to town. It could almost be like the War of the Worlds, where there's this spec op team of him, Corey, and Atkins are out there doing things. And I wouldn't be surprised if at some point they thought about that. I wouldn't be surprised if having this movie be rated R would, kind of squash that potential. But I look at this now, and I'm like, you could make this show on HBO Max or something and actually have it be rated R and actually have it be violent and keep it violent. But back in 94 when this came out, and, the stuff that we had at that time was Xena Warrior Princess and Hercules. And this feels like it, honestly, it kind of feels like it could sit on the same shelf as all of them as a series, just the way it's shot and everything like that. But I do feel like it would have to be rated R in some way, shape, or form, because when we do get more violence later, it does elevate the movie and the character and the danger when we actually see some real blood and gore happening.
Yeah, because spoiler, we're not even at the halfway point of this movie. So a lot of this is taking a really long time to get to the payoff, really long time. But we're about to get to a cooler payoff. Finally getting to the ship right now. Cut to inside the cave, and Dr. Edwards, Corey's dad, is with Crane, and they're using like a blowtorch on the ship, but it's not doing anything. They put their hand where the blowtorch was, and it's cold. And Crane's getting upset. He's like, "We've come this far. Now what?" And Marcus says, "Well, we can have a laser cutter. It'll be here in 2 days." 3 days tops. Crane says, we don't have time to wait. Dr. Edwards Marcus goes, what do you want me to say? Open sesame? And suddenly the ship glows and a weird part of it opens up to a door. Sean looks on, but he's kind of like having a diarrhea attack, you know, when your stomach starts to cramp on you.
Yeah.
And you have too much milk or butter popcorn. And like freaking out because something is like communicating with him, but he doesn't know what it is.
So was he the one that made it open?
I'm assuming yes.
That was my takeaway, is that, yeah, his constipation diarrhea face was it opening. And I gotta say, CGI, 90s CGI is always terrible, but
it didn't look that bad.
No, but for some reason, liquid metal, and maybe it's because it was perfected by T2, but anytime metal turns liquid in CGI form, it doesn't look bad. I'm actually fine with it. And I was like, oh, like actually all the CGI in this movie isn't bad.
No, because it's used sparingly.
Yeah.
And the practical effects are the majority of the effects in the movie.
Yeah, and again, all of the effects are very fucking good.
Or the acting. The acting's not bad either. It's not bad. Really not.
I love Corey. I love Atkins. I love Sean. I'm into all of these characters. I think the dad is fucking great too, you know?
Yeah, Marcus.
And even Crane is good, you know? Like, you can tell that he's a bit better when he's just voicing the creature, so maybe he's more comfortable being like sort of a VO actor, Crane is. But all of these guys and gals, I'm into all of them.
Suddenly you cut to Dr. Edwards in like hazmat gear going into the ship, giving a thumbs up to go in, and the rest of the group watch from a TV monitor. And this is interesting because he goes into the ship in the suit, and then it's like she fast forwards on the TV monitor, and then you cut to Edwards coming out of the ship, giving a thumbs up and says the radiation levels are acceptable. So you know he's been in there for some time looking around, but they don't show any of that because they're about to show it in just a minute.
Yeah.
He says, we can continue. He kind of sends everyone off to do the rest of their work while he has Crane and a few security guards go in with him and Sean and Corey as well.
And I like how he gives that speech like, hey, if anyone feels lightheaded or something, just we end it now. We're like, no one's dying today in the name of science. But I also like when they get into those first corridors of the ship, the camera does this weird like rotating lens thing, and they don't do it too often, but they kind of only do it at this beginning corridor area when Sean and Corey are walking and everything. But I like it. I was like, oh, that's different. That's interesting. That makes it like kind of, you know, alien and weird and everything. And I like that.
Yeah, because remember that Corey said earlier that it's organic, it's growing, you know, it's a living thing basically.
Yeah.
She has a video camera with her, and as they go in, that's when her dad says, you know, no one touches anything or enters any sealed room. We're cataloging only today. Take lots of pictures and try to map out the interior as you go. If you have any trouble breathing, get out. We're not sacrificing anyone in the name of science.
I love that. And it kind of has shades of Apone and Aliens when he's like, nobody touch nothing, you know?
Yeah, but the ship looks a little bit like, you know, an alien intestines, basically.
Yeah, like a xenomorph type of thing, like organic type of thing. Yeah, and this is another set that's absolutely fantastic. All of the sets in this movie are absolutely fantastic.
I totally agree. As everyone goes into the ship, Edwards and his team, which is Crane and the two security agents, go one direction. Sean and Corey go the other direction inside the ship. As Edwards and his team walk away, Crane's whispering something to the other security guards. So you know already he's up to something suspicious, right?
Yeah.
Cut to Corey and Sean in what appears to be the center of the ship. I thought it was the center at first. Kind of looks like there's like a tree, like an alien tree in the middle. And Corey talks about how humid it is inside the ship. She's taking footage with her video camera. And as she's taking video footage, Sean kind of ducks out and goes down another corridor of the ship. Sean goes into another main room, which has like a platform in the center of it. And up in the top of the room, He's staring at what appears to be the same kind of Benoit ball that he has on his head when he turns into the Guyver. He's asking if the ship can hear him. He's asking the ship to talk to him. Suddenly, out of nowhere, he's being followed by one of the security guards, a female security guard. She doesn't have a name. I'll just refer to her as female security guard.
Yeah, it's the one. I mean, she's going to be a Zoonoid later, and she's going to have a battle with Atkins and everything. But there is only one female security guard, and that's her. And you can tell she's like a stunt woman.
Oh, yeah.
Her acting isn't great.
Because her acting's atrocious now.
Yeah.
Suddenly, you cut back to Edwards with Crane, who's with Volker as well. They're in another part of the ship with another weird like tree type thing in the center of it. As they're looking at it, Crane wants to get to the top of this tree area, and Edwards is just like assuming that they'll have to rig some sort of, scaffolding to get to the top of it. Because for some reason, Crane feels like whatever they're looking for is at the top of this tree thing that they're looking at. Cut back to Sean, who's still in that part of the ship, talking to the Benoit ball that's kind of pulsating. And he stands up.
The giant anal bead.
Exactly. He tells the ship that he's here. He said it called him. Say something. Suddenly the ball seems to be communicating with him, but it's not saying anything. And Sean says, you got the wrong guy. I can't live like this anymore. I'm not a killer. I just want to be normal again.
Are you even listening to me, Dad?
Yeah, he's like, I just want my life back, Mom. Cut to Corey in her room looking at the tree, and she's touching part of the tree. Her dad said, don't touch anything. Number one rule, she didn't listen, and
nobody touched nothing.
Nobody touched nothing, and suddenly it opens up, and there's some joy juice in there, and there's some sort of device in the center. Corey's dad arrives, Dr. Edwards, with Crane and Volker. She gets excited to show them what she's found, but her dad gets upset and he says, I told you not to touch anything.
Touch anything? Jeez. Guyver.
Guyver. Crane is very serious and wants to see what she found. Cut back to Sean in the center of the room, hearing Corey scream, saying, no, give it back. I found it first. No, she doesn't say that, but she's screaming.
It's close.
He looks up at the eye and he kind of gives this diarrhea face. And he runs off. The security guard that was watching him is underneath the platform that he was standing on.
Yeah, and she's doing her, okay, now I want you to act concerned. And she's just like, okay,
pensive.
Let me act pensive. All right, so she goes, okay, let me think back to my acting 101 class. And okay, I am doing it now. And then
how does it feel? How does it taste? How does it smell?
Jesus.
What does it sound like?
Bro, I know have you taken acting? I know you've done improv stuff. But you've taken acting proper classes, right?
Oh yeah, I took a class once with this teacher. She's so full of shit. Her acting style. She wanted us to sit in the center with our eyes closed of this room with all the actors around us with our eyes closed to think of a memory that triggers emotion. And I was like, it wasn't working for me. It wasn't. Yeah. It's not my style of acting, and it was so forced. And I was like, this is so not working for me right now, and it's kind of what security guard number 8 is doing in this movie.
Right. Yeah, it's like 101. It's like, okay, I need you to just find that, and I need you to feel pensive. And then she's just I don't know what she's doing, but it's not any emotion that I'm sort of aware of. She's kind of got a mix of fear and concern, where I think ultimately she needs to just be concerned and ponderous. But no, her eyes are real big, and I'm just like, oh girl, just go back to. But she does fine as stunt work when she turns into the Zoonoid. She's great. You can tell that's her waters that she's comfortable swimming in,
because she can be big and she's under a mask, you know. So she's well, and I'm like, how long are you going to stay underneath that platform? She stays in there for quite a while, I think. But she's probably, because she is a Zoonoid, she's familiar with where she's at, right?
Probably, yeah.
Cut back to Corey being subdued by Volker, And he's got a big smirk on his face. And she's upset saying, we're the researchers. It's our job to examine the new artifacts. And Crane says, well, as the funders of this expedition, we have whatever rights we choose. If you don't like it, go back to state and teach freshman archaeology while we're making history. Corey says, Dad, why don't you stop him? And she goes, this is the most important discovery we've made, and you're letting him take it away. And her dad says, we'll get our chance, Corey. Arlen's just taking it away for safekeeping. Safekeeping, Dad? He's stealing it. Sean shows up and asks if Corey's okay. She's still pissed. Crane walks off with the device that she found, walks past Atkins as well, because Atkins suddenly shows up too. Corey screams at Crane. Edwards tells her, just let it go. She goes, he's taking it away. It's a breach of contract, Crane. We'll see you for this. And her dad's like, forget it, Corey. We'll get our chance. Just let it go. Gaw. She's like, let it go. What's the matter with you all? And she gets pissed. And she storms off.
Guyver!
Guyver! Cut to Crane, putting the device in a metal suitcase, then being approached by the female security guard. She wants to talk about Sean.
And I gotta say, when because you see what's in the security case, it's the Guyver unit. It's another Guyver unit. Guyver. I was so hoping to see a female Guyver in this movie. I was so hoping that Corey would put that Guyver suit on, but it doesn't go that way, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I want to talk to Kathy Christopherson about that, because that would have been really cool if she became the Guyver as well.
Yeah, that would have been fucking awesome. And then again, I keep seeing this as like a TV show. I mean, I think it's got the backbones. It could easily be one. And I'm talking like a 90s like syndicated style TV show, but like with like rated R violence. And I want to see her, like Sean and Corey, both be fucking Guyvers. I think that would be so fucking rad, dude.
Well, I think that's the inevitable sequel to this if they would have ever made it, but they didn't.
And apparently every time, David Hayter gets asked this a lot at cons and stuff like that, if there's going to be a Guyver 3 and everything. Like I said, this movie does have a significant cult following.
It's funny, though, when you hear people like, I think it's because of the success of something like Karate Kid, people, especially with like North Shore on $2 late fee, they're like, why don't you make a series or make a sequel to North Shore now? And you're like, these guys are almost 60 years old. It's not going to be the same vibe. Like Karate Kid works. I mean, you certainly could, but just, it's not going to be the same thing that you expect. No, nostalgia is one hell of a drug.
Yeah, and Karate Kid works because they're bringing in the newer people. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because I just saw an article on Reddit. I forget who it was by, but it was basically Bruce Campbell saying he would love, Briscoe County Jr. to get revitalized, even if he had to like take a background to it. And I could totally see that, like have it called Briscoe County, the third or something, and have it be his kid, and he's the parent or whatever. But I think that there's always that door open, and my understanding is that even Telltale Games, the people who did the Walking Dead games and stuff, they were even looking at this as a property to do one of their games, around, but kind of didn't pan out. And I think there's so much meat on the bones that can be explored, but it's just a shame that this license just seems to be, dead on the vine, unfortunately.
Yes. But Sean and Corey's relationship is not. It's very much
anything
alive.
But
Guyver, because he shows up at Corey's tent. She doesn't want him to be there. He says, look, there's things that you need to know. He starts to tell Corey that she and her father have been lied to. He says that they're working for a company called Kronos, and Crane is a part of that, and they're not good people. He's telling her the whole story about Kronos, and she's like, no, our backers are the Tempest Group. He goes, no, it's Kronos, trust me. And as he continues to talk to her about this, camera pans down on the table that they're sitting at, and you see a little bug on the other side listening in. It's Atkins listening on the other side of the conversation. Sean continues, He says, the thing you discovered is very important to them, Kronos. It's called a Guyver unit. It's a powerful weapon. Kronos has been after it for years. All the people who work for Kronos can change into monsters called zoonoids. Volker is one for sure. Probably most of the others. The monsters in the cave paintings and the skeletons you've been digging up, they're zoonoids. The bears that killed those people are zoonoids too. They've lived alongside us forever. All the stories you've ever heard about werewolves or Bigfoot they're all... Corey gets up from her cot looking annoyed and not wanting to believe Sean. And he goes,
wait. She's like, I trusted you, Sean.
Yeah.
I trusted you to not be crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Which is really funny.
Like, we all trust, and I thought that was like, I love that line because I think as like, it's the most human statement you can make because at the end of the day, we all trust each other not to be crazy. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's boils down to it, Zach. I trust you not to be crazy. And you do the same for me.
Guyver.
Yeah,
and he right now he sounds like he's on his way to Cuckoo Town.
Yes,
so,
it's on his way. No stops, no fucking, don't pass go, no $200, just Cuckoo Town right there.
But the only pushback I'll say is like she's investigating stuff that's supernatural anyways, so why wouldn't she believe this a little bit?
Supernatural. But no, you're right. Actually, it's a good point. You would think that, yeah, she's into clearly the ancient alien stuff. You think she'd be like, okay, maybe you're crazy, but this is still kind of interesting. You'd think she'd still kind of maybe give him a, and then you also don't know, because she does allude to the fact that they know what they're digging up. They just don't want to say to him. So you think that there maybe would have been a little connection right there. But no. She trusted Sean to not be crazy, and he failed her.
She's like, just shut up and be handsome, you hunk.
Guyver.
Shut up and be handsome, Guyver.
Just kiss me, Guyver.
Guyver, yeah. So she gets up and she starts to storm off. And you cut to her going to Crane's office, where she wants to obviously talk to him about taking the Guyver unit that she found, but she doesn't know it's a Guyver unit. And he's in his cabin, the office in his cabin, and she walks over to the door to listen in on his conversation. And it's Crane talking to Mr. Guawu, or whatever, the head of the Kronos Corporation. And he says, the ship we excavated, it's a gold mine. And Mr. Guawu, or whatever his name is, says, now's the time to terminate all non-Kronos personnel and bring in our own. And Crane kind of questions him and says, terminate? What about Edward's daughter? Kind of like, what are you talking about? And Guawu says, what about Edward's daughter and the Guyver? And Crane says, well, don't worry about her. She's handled. And the Guyver's in our hands. He'll be on the way to you in an hour. And Guawu says, no promises, Crane, just results. Corey hears all this, but suddenly she's discovered by Volker, who grabs her from behind and pulls her into Crane's office. Crane says, I think we've got a problem.
It would have been cool if, if Crane had some humanity in him and everything.
He's going to have a moment in a second where you think he maybe is.
But I don't think it is, because when that scene ends, he's like, I love my job. And I'm just like, okay, he's just a cartoon villain. It's true, but it would have been nice if he wasn't. And if he was like, but these are my people. Like even though they're not zoonoids, like they're still my people and they trust me. I would have just liked to have had a more three-dimensional character out of Crane.
My blanket.
What?
My blanket. Don't you remember that South Park episode where Michael Jackson shows up? He's like, my blanket.
Oh,
my blanket.
Yeah. I actually haven't seen a lot of. I'm not a huge South Park fan, but I have seen that one. But I'm not a big.
Neither
South
am I.
Park
But
guy.
it just kind of popped in my head for some reason. Where he's like, "Come on, be nice to me. Be nice to me."
My blanket.
Guyver.
Hey everybody, Corey here. I just want to let you know that we'll be right back after these short messages.
Hey everybody, I'm Tim.
And I'm Dean.
And we're the hosts of Talking Back. We're a retro-based podcast covering movies, comics, video games, and more.
Check us out every Monday where we hit the rewind button and dig into some of our favorite content from the past. We like to keep things fun, lighthearted, and informative.
Do you feel like you need more nostalgia in your life? Then check out Talking Back. We're available everywhere podcasts are found.
I'm John, and I'm the host of Action Action. Every week, I'm joined by James.
Heyo.
And Dustin.
Hello.
And each week, we review, debate, and rank a different action movie.
We're creating the ultimate list of action movies.
From awful to awesome.
So if you want to hear 3 more white guys with beards talk about action movies.
And argue about where they belong on our list.
And decide you hate us because we made fun of your favorite movie.
Join us every Tuesday, and you can find us on your favorite podcatcher.
And Steven Seagal is a joke.
And now, back to the show.
Cut to Sean at camp looking for Corey. Corey! No, I'm just kidding. He finds Bob.
I like how Bob's like, you guys are always missing each other, aren't you? Bob's invested in their relationship.
Bob's invested, and Bob is one of those hippie dudes who probably plays hacky sack in a hacky sack group, and with his spin doctor's outfit on.
Bob gave me shades of the guy from Dead Kid, Strange Behavior, who would eventually go on to be Jimmy Olsen in Superman, the Superman movie. He gave me shades of that actor.
Yeah, I agree.
Or
That's good.
Or shades of the older brother from E.T.
Oh, totally. Yes.
Yes. Kind of goofy looking,
Yeah, he's kind of goofy looking.
Yeah.
Bob says, I'll try the commissary. She might be there. Sean suddenly stops as he's walking towards the commissary, hears a sound coming from the cave. He makes his annoyed, I've got diarrhea face, and starts to walk away from the cave, but the sound gets more intense, pulling Sean into the cave.
So this whole movie, I've been like, why is David Hayter, why wasn't he a bigger actor? Why wasn't he bigger? I feel like he has the looks, he has everything, but when you say how he makes diarrhea face, and I'm like, he kind of does. And I'm like, I wonder, that his angry or his stern face, it looks like he's about to explode with diarrhea. And I was like, and I'm starting to think, maybe that's it. Maybe that's the reason.
And folks, before you go, come on, what do you know about that? I have
know about diarrhea.
Yeah, I suffer from being somewhat lactose intolerant, so I know everything about diarrhea face.
Yes, dude, I am lactose intolerant. I have my lactate pills. I will be bringing them with me when I come to visit you in LA because I can't not have them with me, because if I don't, it's bad news bears. So I get it.
Yeah, I'm gonna turn you vegan. We don't have to worry about that anymore.
Guyver.
So he ends up going to the cave, and he's being watched by the female security guard. Cut to Corey being taken away by Volker and another random security guard in a Jeep. But they're leaving Crane's cabin. But lurking behind the cabin is Dr. Edwards, Corey's dad, who's been watching them the whole time.
And this is when I kind of clued in on the fact that everyone is doing acting 101, because when he watches them go, he takes off his glasses and then bites the end of the glass. You know what I'm talking about, guys. You know that look. It's all the standard looks that actors give, and great actors or maybe great directors will be like, oh, don't do that because that's kind of generic. We'll do something else. But because Wang is not the best director in the world, he kind of lets them just do their thing.
Maybe they looked at Wang and they said double or nothing. Or Wang said double or nothing. You can do that scene again. Double or nothing. And he lost the bet and they didn't have to do it again.
Yeah, maybe. Dude.
Double or nothing from Big Trouble in Little China reference. Double or nothing, Wang. Come on, Wang. God bless you. 1,140. What does he say? Never mind. Anyways, cut back to Sean going in the cave. He's looking at the ship. Crane standing behind him, and then Crane says, "It's calling you, isn't it?" Startling Sean. Sean asks, "What do you mean?" Crane says, "It calls me too. We're both its children." Crane says to Sean, "I know who you are, and I know your pain." Sean tries to dismiss him and walk away, and Crane says, "We're both bastards of an uncaring parent. We've been violated. Ooh. Our lives have been changed against our will. Ooh. Sean, I know what it's been like for you. You've lost... In the voice of Michael Bolton. You've lost friends and lovers, haven't you? So have I. We're forced to lead secret lives. Trust me.
I love this scene, but hearing the word lovers come out of Bruno's mouth, the guy who plays Crane, because he's got a baby face, but he's balding. It's not a good look. Like, all around, it's not a good look. And when he says lovers, I throw up a little bit in my mouth.
Lovers.
But overall, I fucking love this scene. It's actually one of my favorite scenes of the movie.
Me too. But if you hear it as Michael Bolton singing it sounds so much better.
Yeah, you made it less vomitatious in my mouth.
And then suddenly, Sean's still kind of turned around. Crane screams at him. Trust me. When Sean turns around, he sees Crane turning in this evil alien monster. He very much looks like the alien in Guillermo del Toro's Shape of Water, actually. It's very similar to that.
Yeah, he's got kind of mandibles on his face. And he is the best zoonoid in the movie. Because his mouth moves, his eyes move, the mandibles move. The face is so expressive that I'm blown away by how good he looks in zoonoid form. But also, they do some really good transformation shots where he kind of leans in and kind of growls with his like early makeup on, and he even does a shot where he kind of turns his head and then turns it back, and it's even different then. And I even rewound it, like trying to be like, oh, how did they do that? My God, this movie has so many amazing qualities in it. And this is why I harp on the 2-hour thing, because moments like this are awesome. This scene, from beginning to end, the scene is fantastic, but it's fucking 30 minutes after our last fight, Like,
yeah, we haven't had a fight for a really long time. God bless you, Wang. And then this isn't even the end of the scene, because Crane continues as the Zoonoid, and he's like, I know, look at me, I'm hideous. Do you think I want to be this way? That's why we're here, to take back our lives. Somewhere in this ship is the key to changing us back. Let's find it together, we can take the Guyver out of you. We can make you normal again. Isn't that what you want? Sean says, I don't know. You're killers. Crane says, and so are you. And Sean says, no, it's the one that kills, not me. Crane says, let us help you. We can make it stop. What do you say, friends?
Friends. He holds out his hand. He's like, friends. Oh, sorry. And realistic, he's like, friends? But I love how you delivered this scene.
Thank you. And then Crane puts Santa. Sean doesn't know how to respond.
Well,
but then
Sean does know how to respond. He responds with diarrhea face. He goes,
no. And he says, no. And then Crane says, pity. And suddenly the female security guard behind Sean hits him over the back of the head and knocks him out. Yeah. Crane says, take him back to the base, keep him sedated. And laughs maniacal laugh. And he says, I love my job, yeah.
And dude, like, it's cheesy. Like when he's like, he kind of like crosses his arms and he laughs. And he's like, I love my job. And like, I'm like, that's kind of cheesy, but at the same time, this is where they should have leaned. Like, in all of it, this is the best.
This is the whole thing, yeah.
Yeah, this is the shit that's awesome, because I love the juxtaposition of a zoonoid, this monstrous creature, saying these very human things, like, I love my job, and later he's like, oh, Marcus, you're fired, and it's just, it's funny, and they might have thought it was cheesy, but I would have done two things: ramped up the violence and ramped up this cheesiness. I think it would have been so much fun.
Right, I totally agree. But we're about to get to some fighting, so have no fear. It cuts to Corey in the Jeep with Voker and random security guard. And he asks if she's comfy. And she kicks him in the face with a really good kick, by the way. It's a great kick. He puts a gun on her and starts wrestling with her. Suddenly, the driver hits something in the road and the Jeep gets stuck. Out of nowhere, a Zoanoid shows up. He tells the girl in the car to get out. Tells Corey to get out of the Jeep. Tells her to run. The Zoanoid picks up the front of the Jeep and starts shaking it with the 2 security guards inside. This Zoanoid looks like a bug, by the way. And I know you'll talk about that in a second. He lifts the Jeep up, flips it over, gives a weird, like, elephant-type scream. When the Zoanoid flips the Jeep over, after he gives out his elephant-type scream, he flips the Jeep over, and suddenly the Jeep starts shaking, and you see punching on the inside of the Jeep coming out. Zoanoid looks curious. Corey's watching from afar.
Yeah,
Suddenly,
even when her dad told her to run, but okay.
Right. Suddenly, claws come out of the Jeep, ripping it apart, and both security guards have now Zoanoided themselves. And they say...
And, sorry, it looks amazing when they shoot out from behind the Jeep, and they're both doing, like, the anime pose as they're shooting, like, straight up in the air. I fucking love that shit.
I wish it would freeze frame and be like, so annoyed!
Yeah.
But it didn't. And then, as they rip out of the Jeep, one of the Zoanoids says to this bug Zoanoid, "You shouldn't have interfered, Marcus." And then that's the big reveal that it's Corey's dad.
Yeah, and come on, dude, you knew it was going to be him. Like,
you know it is. Yeah. And I was saying, I know you might want to talk about the fact that he looks like very bug-like looking. One of them looks like a potato bug. And then, of course, Volker is like the kind of... He doesn't look like a wolf man, but he's one of the more like expressive monsters.
Yeah, he's more of he's like a rhinoceros mixed with something else, but yeah, he's a bit more, his costume has a bit more going on. The other one, like you said, it's a potato bug looking thing. That's a little bit the weaker one. Marcus looks interesting. He's almost like some kind of beetle type of thing, like a beetle mixed with the original alien, the original space jockey that they find in Alien, how he kind of has like that nose, and later on you find, oh, that's a helmet. I don't give a shit. I'm talking about the original Alien movie, He's kind of like a mix with that and a beetle. He looks okay, but Volker is the best looking of the three.
You said he looks like a beetle. I wonder what beetle he looks like. Is it John Paul or Ringo or George? Ding-a-ding-a-ding-ding.
Buddy-buddy-boo.
Bada-bada-boom-boom.
I actually have never been a fan of the Beatles.
Wow. Well, they have their moments, and they should be appreciated for their contributions to rock music history. So they have this epic tussle. It doesn't last very long, actually, but in this melee, in this battle that they're having, and again, it's like Corey kind of talked about it earlier. Each fight is different from one another in some ways, but these are just badass brawls. And the Jeep that they ripped out of kind of continues to roll towards the edge of this cliffside that they're on, the road is on, and it rolls off the cliff, falling down to a nearby kind of quarry area where there's a pond, and it explodes. Marcus is thrown off the cliffside as well. The 2 evil Zoanoids follow after him. Corey's able to make her way down the mountain, calling out for her dad. The 2 evil Zoanoids get the upper hand on Marcus Edwards, but Corey picks up some rocks and throws them at the monsters. She yells at them not to hurt her dad, and one, the potato bug, starts coming towards her. She runs away in fear, and you cut to Sean being sedated in his tent, strapped down to his cot by the security guard, the female security guard, who's about to give him more sedative. This is important. She gives him the sedative, which knocks him out further. She tells another security guard to keep an eye on him. She walks off. While she walks off and Sean sleeps, out of nowhere, the security guard she told to watch Sean gets knocked on his ass by Atkins.
Yeah, Atkins saving the day. Saving the day.
Saving the day. Within the span of like 5 seconds or so, and I'm assuming no time is really supposed to have passed, Atkins runs over to Sean, starts slapping him to wake him up. And Sean's like suddenly wide awake, undoes the bindings.
Yeah,
says,
I wish, I mean, my God, this movie's 2 hours long, and there's one piece of dialogue that I wish, which was Sean saying, oh, the Guyver counteracted the sedation or something.
Sedations don't have an effect on me. I was playing the whole time.
Yeah, something.
But he didn't, and they didn't, so you got to assume what the fuck just happened. And Atkins is like, I got to get you out of here. The government wants you in one piece. My backup's on its way. This place is about to become a battlefield. And Sean says, but the students.
Atkins says, fuck the students.
Yeah, he goes, the students are fine. And he goes, now listen, about this Guyver unit. What can it do? He starts asking him a million questions. And Sean's like, Corey, I've got to get to her. And Atkins says, they've already taken her. There's nothing I could do. He says, where? And he gives them directions about where they are. And Atkins is like, wants to know more about the Guyver unit. But Sean's like, I got to go. I got to rescue Corey. And Atkins is like, I'm sorry, I can't let you go. But out of nowhere, Sean knocks Atkins on his ass and takes off.
Yeah, he does a little karate on him.
This is when the music intensifies. Sean gets into Corey's truck and drives off to go rescue Corey.
You know you can fucking cut 5 shots out of this drive to wherever they're going. It's like, I'm driving so fast. I'm driving down these dirt roads.
Driving so fast, dramatic driving.
All that being said, when Sean, David Hayter, finally comes to the location where he looks out over the valley or whatever, holy fucking shit, that's gorgeous. Like,
yeah, it's a beautiful shot.
They get one of the most fucking amazing shots I've ever seen in a movie. Like, guys and gals, it is stunning, and it's in the Guyver 2 Dark Hero.
And this is where Sean yells out, Corey, Ricola.
And she hears him somehow.
She hears him.
Sean!
And then he hears her, and he's kind of gauging what he's going to do next, and he jumps off the cliff. So he he centers himself, right?
Yeah.
He looks nervous, but then he centers himself with a deep breath, a non-diarrhea breath. And as he jumps off the cliff, he yells, Guyver! And he turns, his Guyver suit turns open into like little mini parachutes that carry him slowly down to the ground, and he becomes the Guyver unit as he hits the ground, ready for battle to attack the Zoonoids. That's really awesome. An awesome shot.
Yeah.
It's a GIF that you can find online, by the way, and I send it to Corey all the time.
It's a cool shot, and it's a little,
it's CGI, but it's as good as the mainstream stuff that came out in the 90s.
Yeah, and actually for 2023, it doesn't look fucking bad, to be honest with you.
No. So when he gets down there, he becomes Guyver, and he takes off at lightning speed. It cuts to Corey, who's now being pushed into a pond by Potato Bug Zoonoid, and Marcus is being thrown into the water on the other side, like the other side of this pond that they're in. The two evil Zoonoids go to attack Corey and Marcus, respectively. Right before Corey gets attacked, the Guyver comes out of nowhere to save her. He fends off the two creatures, picking up Corey in the process and telling her to take cover.
And I like there's some cool noise coming out of the Guyver when he moves and shit. It sounds like it's like air kind of like shooting out of him or something.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah. And this is a great battle scene. It goes on for several minutes until finally Sean cuts the Potato Head's bug off, which is great.
You said cuts the Potato Head's bug off. Yeah, cuts the potato
potato bug's head off. Guyver.
I'm keeping it all fucking in.
God damn it, Robert.
And when he does that, it's super cool because he's in the water. They can't find him, but like it kind of like slows down, and the potato bug sort of is looking at the camera, and the Guyver explodes out of the water behind him in a full-on anime pose. And I'm like, that's awesome.
Should have again freeze frame and go, oh yeah,
and then it comes down and fucking slices its head off. And god damn it, I wish the gore was more pronounced.
It's so tame. It's so tame. It's so tame. It's lame in that sense because they don't show the head really fall off. They see it slump off, but they could have done a cool, like, more gory shot, but they didn't.
But they make up for it when he takes the pain to Volker in, like, literally, like, a minute from now.
Right, exactly. So, because from now he killed that Zonoid, he's now on to Volker. Guyver backs Volker into a tree, causing blood to come out of his mouth. He's just pounding the shit out of him.
All right, dude, I got all of this. So one of my favorite parts is Volker comes out of him before the tree part, comes at him, jumps through the air, fucking Guyver kicks him and, like, redirects him midair. I always love when you redirect somebody's momentum. And then he fucking slams it, like, with his back to the Zoanoid Volker. He slams him up against a fucking tree. Blood comes out of Volker's mouth. He fucking spins around, slices his fucking guts up and everything with his arm blades. Then Volker tries to grab him. He grabs Volker's hands, breaks them at the mid palm area. Volker's like, what the fuck? Like, looking at, what am I doing by my hands? What am I doing by my hands? You know, fucking
my hands.
Then fucking Guyver just shoots him, like, with a little pinprick laser from his fucking anal bead in the middle of his forehead. He shoots him and it explodes both of Volker's eyeballs. And I'm like, holy fucking shit. And then he fucking, like, just kind of crushes Volker's head a little bit, and then the creature falls over and dies. And I'm like, this is how every fucking Zoanoid fight should end. Like, this is the template right here. And I mean, and I love how liquidy the blood is. Like, it's very watery. It's not, like, goopy and everything. And it's spraying everywhere. It's vomiting out of his mouth, and his eyeballs explode. This fucking scene, this fight scene is my favorite fight scene in the movie. It's better than, I think, the climax fight scene. And this kill, the Volker kill, is the best kill in the movie. Well, the Crane one's pretty fucking awesome too. But, like, every Zoanoid kill needed to be this right here.
So, yeah, after that epic kill that you just described so nicely, Guyver sees that there's one more Zoanoid left over by Corey, and he doesn't know it's Marcus. So he goes to slice it with his blade. Corey steps in front of the blade, and then suddenly the scene goes black, which is really cool, actually.
And you hear the shink, you know.
Yep, and then the scene fades from black, and you see the blade, you know, centimeters, millimeters from Corey's face.
Yeah.
But he freezes on her. And from that moment, he changes back into Sean, shocking Corey. She turns to look at her dad. He puts his hand on his face like, I'm not an animal.
I'm hideous.
And he runs away.
Yeah. But I love that. I'm with you, man. I think that was so fucking cool because you think, like, oh, shit, he's going to fucking kill Marcus. And then Corey jumps up like, no, that's my dad. And then you hear the shink, and then it goes to black. And you're like, oh, fuck. And then, it's the blade is like millimeters from her fucking eye or something. And I mean, everything with the Zoanoids, with Corey and with Guyver, all of this is a fucking 10. All of this is awesome.
Exactly. Totally agree. So from there, Sean looks somewhat sad, nervous, worried at Corey, and the scene cuts to Crane and the female security guard inside the cave looking at the ship. The female security guard tells Crane that it's done, but the guy escaped. And Crane says, what's done? She goes, it's done, sir, but the Guyver has escaped. Crane says, he'll be back. Cut to further inside the cave. One of the security guards has a gun on all the archaeologists.
And we see two of them are dead at his feet, like two random archaeologist guys, I guess.
Random dudes, yep.
Yeah.
Crane is now exiting the spaceship. When he comes out with the female security guard, you know, the archaeologists ask Crane for help. They're like, help us, Mr. Crane. And Crane says, I'm sorry, but your services are no longer needed, implying that they're all going to be killed. You know, Bob and all of them start freaking out, and suddenly they hear a punching noise. And one of the security guards that had a gun on the archaeologists, gets hit and turns into an alien.
Yeah.
And
it's like a frog.
Yeah, it looks like a frog. And he also dies pretty much instantly at that point. So like one hit to the head and he's dead. So he must have been pretty weak. Atkins shows up with a gun cocked on Crane and tells him not to do anything funny. Cut back to Corey and Sean in the Quarry Pond area. And she says, she thanks him for saving her life. And Sean looks sad and he's like, I wanted to tell you, but how do you tell somebody? Corey's like, what you told me was hard enough. It took a lot of guts, Sean. Sean's like, look, you don't have to be nice to me, okay?
He's so emo. He's so emo in the scene.
Yeah. It's like, you didn't know what you're getting into. If you don't want anything to do with me, I'll understand, okay? It's not the first time. He turns away from Corey. She turns him around and goes, hey, it's every woman's dream to be rescued by a knight in shining armor, even if he wears it on the inside. And they kiss passionately. After they kiss, he's like, I left your truck at the top of the hill. We got to drive back down. I'll meet you when I can. And Corey says, wait, no, I'm coming with you. He goes, no, it's too dangerous. Atkins is bringing in a strike force to arrest Crane. Corey says, Professor Atkins? He's a commander. He's with the government. Sean's like, he'll get slaughtered if I don't get back. Corey's like, I don't care. I'm coming with you. My father's back there. I'm not leaving him. Sean's like, okay, come on.
It's almost as if that scene didn't matter at all.
I know. Why did I write it down? Because I was able to do that. So they get there. Corey and Sean race off to go rescue everyone back at the dig site, where Atkins and his team at this point are now rushing all the archaeologists out of the cave. They flee for their safety, and they get in their cars, and they take off. And we literally see every single car pull away from the site. Every single car pull away from the site. Guyver? Cut back to Atkins now, giving a thumbs up to his crew. And there's like Atkins' crew of CIA, FBI guys are all around the site with sniper rifles kind of guarding everybody.
There's like 4 of them, but I think we're supposed to lead to believe there's more.
There's like 6. And Atkins now has the device in the steel case that Crane had took from the ship. And the security guard, the female security guard, is there. He's taking them out of their cabin. Atkins is trying to pretend like he didn't do anything wrong. He's like, this is an outrage. We're a reputable company. Atkins goes, reputable companies don't conduct sick experiments on people. Crane says, the judge will laugh this case out of court. And Atkins says, too bad it's not going to court. Ha! Because he's implying that he's going to kill him.
Yeah.
Because they are like CIA type guys.
Yeah.
Crane turns around to look at Atkins after he says that, and Atkins puts a gun to his head. He says, don't even try it unless you think you're faster than a speeding bullet. Atkins' men bring up another security guard. So now there's Atkins is there with a random security guard, Crane, and the female security guard. Atkins is talking to his team on like a walkie device, and he's like, the area is secured. There's a man with a rifle nearby, and he says, the area is secured, but then in the background, you see one of the Zoonoids coming up from behind him.
Zoonoid Corbin.
Corbin gets mentioned, and you're like, this guy's never been mentioned up till this point.
Yeah, so... yeah, fucking Crane mentioned something about like Corbin still out there. And my second viewing, I was like, I kind of didn't pay attention on the first one. Like, it didn't hit me. The second time, I'm like, oh. So I paused it. I'm like, who's Corbin? Oh, I must have missed Corbin. Let me go to IMDb. Nope. There's no Corbin anywhere else. A new Zoonoid / I guess, a security member, but a Zoonoid, shows up out of nowhere. And I think he's meant, if I remember correctly, he kind of looks like the boss from the boss fight from the last movie, So like he's anyways, I'm like, oh my God, they introduced a whole new villain with 30 minutes left in the movie and didn't even like put him in the movie beforehand. I guarantee you they were like, oh, I feel like this should have been Volker's, role, but he got killed in the last scene, and I feel like they were like, ooh, when in the writing process, they were like, oh shit, we need another second in command. Well, bring in Corbin. And then the other writer's like, who? And Wang's like, Corbin, Corbin. He's just been walking around the set the entire time.
Right. He's just the very important person that we just want to introduce in the last, like you said, 30 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned it because I thought I was going crazy by not knowing who the fuck he was, but you said it. So, no, they don't ever show us him in human form then.
No, and all we know is that he kills the sniper. He actually kills... It's
pretty
implied
much everybody,
that he
all the CIA
kills
guys.
Everybody except for Atkins. So you cut back to Atkins, who is like, we'll find Corbin soon enough. But it's too late at this point because you see Corbin dragging the security, like Atkins men up.
And their throats are like ripped out and shit like that.
Yeah, exactly. And now at this point, Crane is smiling. He still kind of has his arms up, but he's smiling. And then you pan through, the camera pans through his arms.
His arms, yeah.
In the background, you see Sean and Corey watching the whole thing, arriving and hiding.
Yeah, the camera gets too close to Bruno for my liking.
Right. Corey's like, Corey thinks that Atkins secured the area, but Sean says, no, something's wrong. Where's the backup? Sean knows that something's wrong. They go off to the cave. Sean says they have to destroy the ship. Corey asks, why? Everything's under control. Sean doesn't think so. Corey doesn't want to destroy the ship because of the knowledge and the fact that she won't get to research it.
But
and
the
Sean
knowledge,
says,
the knowledge,
the knowledge. Sean says, if we don't destroy it, too many people are going to die fighting for it.
I'm fighting for our national security here.
Come on, gaw. Suddenly, Corey sees a dead archaeologist on the ground, and Sean says that all they want is weapons. And he says, Corey, it's all they've ever wanted. Cut to Atkins outside with his gun on Crane. And this is the point where...
Oh, yeah. This is the point where you see Corbin dragging the CIA guys. Yeah.
Corbin Blue shows up from High School Musical and kills and has the bodies there. Atkins freaks out, puts his hands up in the air. Female security guard grabs the gun, Atkins' gun, and puts it on Atkins.
I'm glad Atkins didn't die right here. I'm glad spoiler alert, he doesn't die the entire movie.
Yeah, he's an integral part to the story.
Yeah.
And then Crane picks up the suitcase that Atkins had and has the alien Guyver device back with him again. They walk back into the cabin to talk with Mr. Gou. And Mr. Gou says, your hour is up. Where is the Guyver? And Crane says, there's been some delays. And Gou says, Crane? And Crane says, we'll get him back. He's fixated on the ship. He won't leave. And Gou says, have him here in another hour, or shall I send someone with more experience? And Crane says, no, I can handle it. I'll take care of it. 1 more hour, Crane. If we lose him... 1 more hour, sir. Yes, sir.
A scene that could be completely cut from the movie, it means fucking nothing.
Yes. Because he opens up the briefcase again and looks at the device. He puts his hands on it, stroking it. Suddenly it comes to life. He closes his eyes, stroking it. Cut back to the cave where Corey and Sean are now rigging it with dynamite, like something from The Thing. They're getting ready to blow it up. Corey goes on with a story about how she spent her whole life working towards this and always scared that she was chasing a pipe dream. And the minute she finds out that it's true, she has to destroy it. They set the dynamite up to a charging device. Sean puts his hand on her and says, well, he goes to say something to her, but he starts convulsing. And she's like, what's wrong? Corey says, don't fight it. She says, go to it, Sean. And he looks at the spaceship.
Sorry, real quick. When I was taking notes today, this is when Myra came home from work. Like, literally, she was like, came home, look at the TV, and it's like, it's Sean going, ha, ha. And Corey's like, don't fight it, Sean. And Myra just looks at it and she goes, ah, and like sort of like walks away.
Pretty much. I mean, that's a pretty good way to describe that moment.
Yeah.
Because suddenly, so he there's a close-up of the ball that's been watching him, the Benoit ball. And
the anal bead.
Sean's there inside the ship. And it starts to illuminate. Sean steps onto the platform and yells, I'm not the one you want. And he yells, Guyver. And he turns into the Guyver, looking up at the ball. Suddenly he's lifted off the platform. Lights are illuminated from the floor of the room. The Benoit ball is illuminated. red light comes out of the ball. We see an image of another world flashing with volcanoes, like a red planet with alien eggs.
Okay. I think this is actually Earth. Like
no,
primordial.
it is.
Yeah.
It is. But initially, I'm like, this looks like another world. It looks like the world from like Mars or something from Phantasm, right?
And it's so clearly miniatures, and I love it. Again, this is where like this scene, this flashback thing that you're about to describe, I was like, oh, Steven Kostansky fucking love this shit, I'm sure.
Oh, big time. Because from here, the camera pans through various monsters that are in the eggs. And then suddenly, as the camera pans, you see what appears to be a caveman. And then you realize in that moment that this is actually Earth.
I'm just a caveman.
Just a caveman. Lawyer.
Unfrozen caveman lawyer, dude. That was my SNL growing up right there.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah,
so good.
So good.
No caveman lawyer for this because you get a quick shot of a caveman. That's a cool effect, by the way. Cool makeup.
He looks great.
And then the flashbacks continue, and you see the cavemen wearing the skulls of different Guyvers and creatures. Suddenly, the cavemen transform into zoonoids.
Mm-hmm.
And you see a giant ship that's launched into space. Actually, there's 3 of them, in fact, that launch off into space.
And you also see like a guy turning into a Guyver and screaming too.
Oh, yeah, Guyver, yeah. And then you see the Guyver watching him, watching the guy turning into a zoonoid.
Yeah.
Cut to outside of Crane's cabin. Crane exits, walking past the annoyed Atkins and the female security guard and the random security guard. Crane says that Goyu will be here soon. Oh, sorry. He says the Guyver will be here soon. Let's prepare him a nice welcome.
And dude, is this the shot where like fucking Crane is walking slowly towards the camera like it's the Reservoir Dogs shot? It's like Crane's there, Atkins is there, fucking the female is there, and then Corbin, the zoonoid, is there, like, but he's not in the front. He's like, you know, Corbin's kind of in the middle. And he's yeah, we're all just walking slow-mo, and I'm like,
get in bed with my little green bag.
Yeah.
Oh, Wang, God bless you.
God bless you, Wang.
What is this? What is this? Chinese or something? Counting backwards? Not backwards, downwards. Idiot. Jack Burton.
Jack Burton, you motherfucker.
Who the hell's this guy? Jack Burton, me.
Where the hell's the records room?
Cut to... Yeah, they're walking in slow motion towards the cave. Cut to Corey rigging up the explosives, asking where Sean is. Suddenly, Crane arrives.
Asking where's Corey. The records room?
He goes, where the hell's the records room? She goes, Dr. Rosen penis?
Dr. Rosen?
It's Dr. Rosen. And Crane says, he yells at her and says, bring me a glass of hot fat and the head of Alfredo Garcia. I'm hyperventilating. And so she tries to run away from Crane, but suddenly 2 zoonoids jump in front of her. Not the security guard. There's now 2 other security guards, and they're zoonoids. So it's Corbin Bleu from High School Musical and some other random guy.
Yeah. I mean, I think we saw the other security guard, but
during the reservoir walk.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And the female zoonoid, she's cool looking. She's more like, she looks almost demonic a little
She's
bit.
Cool. Yeah, she looks great. She looks more like a leader zoonoid, basically, second in command.
Yeah, she does. Actually, I really like her design. I think she's cool looking.
Sean's still in his trance as the Guyver, but then he hears Corey scream for help. So you cut back to Corey being held by Crane. Crane sees all the bombs set to explode the ship, and he says, anarchy. An archaeologist destroying the past? Not acceptable scientific behavior, Miss Edwards. Corey says it's better than handing it over to you. She jerks away from Crane. Crane orders his zoonoids to find the Guyver in the ship. Female zoonoid looks really cool, by the way. Yeah, you mentioned that. She's holding on to Atkins, and she just kind of growls.
Yeah.
Suddenly, the 2 zoonoids get thrown out of the ship looking for the Guyver. And the Guyver appears at the entrance. Guyver. Crane's holding Corey by the throat at this point. The Guyver jumps down and tells Crane to let her go. Crane says, Sean, don't be a hero. Deactivate the Guyver and surrender or I'll kill her. The Guyver thinks about it, and out comes Corey's dad from behind as the human. He hasn't turned into a zoonoid. He looks all beat up and battered, but he's holding his arm, walking towards Corey, Atkins, and the female security guard. And he looks annoyed and he goes, "We had a deal," to Crane. "Yes, we let you do your research and you give us the weapons. You should have told your daughter, Marcus. It would have saved us a lot of trouble." And Corey says, "Dad, how could you bargain with this murderer?" Crane says, "Don't you get it? Corey, your dad's a company man." Crane tells Edwards to stand aside. Crane turns towards Guyver and says one last time to retract the armor. Suddenly, Crane turns into a zoonoid, and he says, "Or I'll tear her apart." Roar!
And, it's like a morphine effect. It's fine. It's not the best one. It's serviceable.
Yes. Yeah. And he gives off his maniacal laugh. Maniacal laugh. And the security guard has a maniacal laugh. Two random zoonoids. Bad guy laugh. Two random zoonoids surround Guyver, and you see Dr. Edwards start to breathe heavily, and you see his teeth. And he's turning into the monster, and he's like, "You will not hurt my daughter." And he turns into a zoonoid. He grabs Crane, and they start battling. So it's Crane versus Marcus Edwards. Crane pushes Marcus back, and he goes, "Marcus, you're fired." Ha ha.
And it's cheesy, but honestly, that's what works. This is the shit that works when he it's the, like I said, it's the juxtaposition of this really cool looking monster saying something very silly like, "Marcus, you're fired." And I think that's the kind of humor that would work when paired with extreme gore and extreme violence and everything. And the thing is, Zach, at this point, have you noticed that all the deaths and all the gore are associated with the zoonoids, and no person actually gets killed except for those two archaeologists that you don't even see them get shot. They're just on the ground, and that was kind of shocking because I was like, oh shit, because really no one really dies except for zoonoids in this, and except for that photographer, that journalist guy or whatever. And that's the one kill that I wish we saw a bit more of it, because I think it would have more of an impact.
There's barely any swearing in this movie. There's more swearing in our podcast than there's actually in this movie.
There's more nudity in this podcast than there is in this movie, because I have no pants on right now.
Yes, this is true.
Guyver.
So yeah, from here, now at this point, it's Guyver versus two random zoonoids. It's Marcus versus Crane, and Atkins is being held by the female zoonoid, and Corey's there too.
And
Corey
it's a shame we don't have the female zoonoid's name.
No, we don't. It's female zoonoid.
Yeah.
Corey grabs the briefcase, the Guyver unit that's in the briefcase, and gives it to Atkins. The Guyver throws the gun to Atkins and says to protect Corey, and Atkins goes, "Who the hell's going to protect me?" The zoonoid laughs when he shoots at her, but then he yells to Corey to give him the case. Corey throws the case, and he goes, "Okay, bitch, come here," and he runs off. This is important. The only reason I point that out is because he says bitch 3 times in this movie.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, why did you need to say that? It's kind of lame.
Yeah.
And so he runs off through the cave, and he's kind of I'm imagining that he's running around in a big circle, and the female zoonoid is chasing him. Marcus is battling Crane. Crane bites Marcus in the shoulder, and Marcus lets out an elephant sound. Corey picks up a pickaxe and stabs Crane in the back. Crane turns around and smacks her to the ground. Blood's coming out of her mouth. But Crane just kind of not blows off the fact that he got hit in the back with a pickaxe.
Yeah, it doesn't do much to him,
Right. Atkins is now battling the female zoonoid, and he's putting up a pretty good fight, but eventually the alien throws him to the ground. He throws boxes at her. He tries to run away, but she trips him. He grabs some sort of pipe on the ground, and he's fighting her with it, getting the upper hand, whacking her with the pipe. Cut to the Guyver, who's battling his two zoonoids. Cut back to Atkins, who grabs a fire extinguisher and blasts the zoonoid with it. He sees that the female Zoonoid is right in front of an electrical box. He shoves her into the electrical box panel and she gets electrocuted and she dies, morphing back into the woman and coughs out smoke. He pulls a gun out. She grabs him by the leg, puts 2 bullets in her head, and he calls her, and he just says, bitch. Like, dude, you didn't have to say that.
No, I know, but like I thought it was cool that when she fell down, to the ground in human form, she's all like fucking burnt up and shit like that. I thought that was cool. And yeah, he puts like 2 rounds into her, and then yeah, 2
slugs, and she's dead.
Yeah. You didn't need the bitch part,
I know, it's kind of just extra because because no one, whatever. Anyways, cut back to Guyver still battling his 2 Zoonoids. He grabs a stick of dynamite and shoves it into one of the Zoonoid's mouths. And this Zoonoid looks like a frog.
Yeah.
And suddenly he shoots his laser at the stick of dynamite in the Zoonoid's mouth, and the Zoonoid explodes and kills it.
Yeah, and it's just another one where like it could have been such a better bloody like head explosion or something. It's just damn it, you were so close,
Right. Suddenly, Crane's battling Marcus, and he's talking to him. He's like, it didn't have to be this way, Marcus. We're doing great things together. You could have been somebody in the company. Junior vice president in charge of genocide. Oh, no, sorry. Marcus says that. He's like, junior vice president in charge of genocide? I'd rather die. Crane gets pissed and grabs a pipe off the ground, and he shoves it into Marcus's chest.
Yeah.
Corey sees this and she screams out, "No!
Daddy, no!"
Runs in slow motion towards Crane. She picks up a sledgehammer, whacks Crane in the face with the sledgehammer.
That's a cool shot because like blood like shoots out of his mouth too.
Yeah, it's awesome. Cut back to Guyver battling the other Zoonoid. He's fighting Corbin Blue, and he gets on top of the Zoonoid who's on the ground, and he snaps its neck.
Yeah, because I again still think Corbin was supposed to be Volkers or whatever, because he's still imposing, but he's not the main bad guy because Crane is still going to be the main bad guy.
Right. Cut to Corey defending her dad sitting in front of him as Crane moves closer and she yells, "Leave him alone!" Guyver jumps in front of Corey and says, "Back off," to Crane. Guyver asks how Marcus is doing, and Corey says, "I don't know, but it's bad."
We are halfway through the main climax fight. There's probably about only, realistically, 8 minutes left in the movie total. But this entire climax fight, the score by Les Claypool III, has been entirely... And, like, there's no variation. There's no build-up when, like, something big happens. There's no... like slow down or any, like it is the same tempo the entire time, but yet we've had multiple climaxes already in this fight, multiple Zoonoids getting killed. You would think there'd be something there. No, the entire it's literally the same fucking 5 beats at 10 seconds repeated the entire 22 minutes of this climax.
Yeah.
It's offensive.
Yeah, and you guys know that we've said this before. Good music can elevate a bad film, and bad music can really downgrade a good film.
And I think the latter happened here.
Agreed, because this is the most important part of the movie.
Yeah.
And it's going to get really interesting here because at this point, Crane kind of steps back from Guyver and brushes off some dirt. And he asks the Guyver, he's like, "Why are you attacking your own kind, freak? We could have helped you." Sean, as the Guyver, says, "I'm no freak, and I'm not like you. You threaten mankind. I protect them." Cut to Atkins, who appears from the side of the cave holding the briefcase, yelling out to Sean. He opens up the briefcase, and it's empty.
You know it's coming right now.
And Crane laughs. He goes, "Ha ha ha ha. Who's going to protect the protector?" And he's holding the Guyver unit, and he yells, "Biomorph!" Suddenly, lightning flashes, and Crane has now evolved into a mega Zoonoid Guyver.
Yeah, this is cool. He looks fantastic. Again, All the Zoonoids, all the rubber suits in this movie look amazing, and he looks just as good as the Guyver suit does.
Right. He's ready to like kick the crap out of the Guyver.
But it's Guyver-esque, but with around a Zoonoid. It's everything you think it is, and it looks as good as you think it should.
Yeah, and he's massive too. He's massive compared to Guyver.
Yeah, and real quick, I want to call back. I didn't mention it, but in the flashback, when you saw the Guyver in the flashback, I liked that it looked different. Like its mouthpiece was different because there was millions of years of evolution to it. I thought that was kind of cool. There's so many cool little micro ideas in this.
Right, totally. No, I totally agree. At this point, they both do some sort of like pose down before they battle each other.
At this point, they both do some kind of karate.
And Crane does this cool like upside down prancing mule kick towards Guyver.
Sure.
And Guyver yells out, you can't win. The ship told me the truth. You're an experiment gone out of control. And he also mentions, too, that the device that Crane has on his head is damaged. And it is. You can see there's like a crack in the center of it.
Yeah, I mean, you could see it from the beginning, and we should have called it out. But yeah, it's cracked. The anal bead is cracked, unlike the Guyver's, which is solid. So yeah, we know it's defective or messed up or whatever.
And Crane's like, I'm in complete control. Like, he's not concerned at all. And Guyver/Sean says, aliens created the Guyver to fix their mistakes. And Crane says, you're the mistake. I'm the final product. The final countdown. They continue to battle with Crane getting the upper hand on the Guyver. They fight over a wooden bridge, and Guyver swings a wooden bridge that's maybe like 5 feet off the ground. And it's really cool looking, though.
I don't hate it.
Guyver gets hit off the bridge, but he swings around upside down over it, and he flies over the bridge, kicking Crane in the chest. Crane projects like 2 giant spikes out of his arms, and to battle Guyver's 2 spikes that are in his arms.
Yeah, I love it. I love all of this, man. This is all awesome.
Yeah, they're having like a sword fight with their blade arms.
Their arm blades, yeah.
This is when I'm like, oh, damn, this is just like Blue Beetle. Crane kicks Guyver into a scaffolding unit that falls on top of him. He grabs Sean, throws him to the other side of the cave. Crane says, with this alien power, Kronos will be triumphant, and man shall know his true destiny to serve mankind.
Meow, meow, meow.
And now Sean says, not if I can help it. You're cracked, Crane, and you're going to self-destruct. Crane says, never. The unit feeds me. I feel the power growing stronger. Crane shoves his blade into Guyver's chest, and blood spurts out of Guyver.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's like shooting out of his like little vent units or whatever, but it's so again, it should have been more of this. This is fucking awesome.
This is cool. And then, Crane's like, how does it feel to become obsolete? And suddenly Corey yells out to Crane, and she's got a gun. She's pointing the gun right at Crane's head, and she pulls the trigger, and you see this cool POV shot of the bullet going towards Crane. Right in the center of his unit, hits the crystal Benoit ball anal bead on his head.
I mean, we should have been giving fucking Corey a gun early on. She's a crack shot.
She crack shots Crane in the head.
I love it. It's really cool. She's like, great, Crane. He like looks up as he's like stabbing the Guyver, and she just like fucking brain caps him, like shoots him right in his fucking anal bead right in the middle. Like, it's crazy. And he's like, oh!
He's freaking out. And at this point, Guyver/Sean gets up and rips the crystal anal bead out of Crane's head and says, this model's been recalled. Crane screams.
I like that. Because it plays off of what they were saying before, and this is the cheesy shit that I think actually fucking works, man.
I love it. It's great. Yeah, Guyver does like a spin kick flip in the air, kicking Crane back against a wall.
Well, he's like back against that scaffolding that fell over because they're going to use it in a bit to show the circular blow, whatever.
Right. And Crane backs up screaming in pain. His body's starting to melt.
Yeah.
While he screams out for help. You see droplets of his body are just falling to the ground. This is probably the goriest scene in the movie.
And he's
next
screaming.
To
He's like, help me, help me.
Right. He's like the melted guy in RoboCop, right?
Yeah, he's like fucking Emil in RoboCop. Help me.
Suddenly,
get away from me, man.
Right. Suddenly out of nowhere, the Guyver opens his pecs of his chest.
Yeah, that's something that's in the anime, and I forgot that this was the Guyver's thing, but this is kind of how he kills all the main dudes in the anime. He opens his chest, and he has two like giant laser cannons that are just like type of thing,
They just like flame on Crane and turn him into ash.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's really cool. And then you see like a circle was like cut out of the scaffolding where he was standing from the laser blast.
The laser blast, yeah. Corey rushes over to Sean, who's still the Guyver. She hugs him. She says, "Sean, we did it." Corey steps back and looks at him and says,
we didn't do anything. I did everything."
She smiles and she goes, "Looks like you found your destiny." And then Sean goes, "Corey, I lied. The Zoanoids weren't the failed experiment. The Guyvers were. The aliens turned humans into Guyvers so we could fight their wars for them. The humans rebelled. Out of control. The Guyver's nothing more than a weapon. I have no destiny." Corey says, "You made your own." Atkins walks over and goes, "You're a hell of a weapon, kid. It's a good thing you're on our side. I'm not a religious."
Reagan. Fucking Reagan.
I'm not a religious man, but you may have just prevented Armageddon. Who knows how many more weapons are on board. Now at least they'll be safe with the government, where they belong.
No,
Guyvers. Sean says no. That's not where it belongs. Sean, who's still as the Guyver, his Benoit ball, his anal bead on his head opens up and pops out, and lights start shooting out from it, and it activates the alien spaceship. Atkins asks, "What are you doing?" Sean says, "I'm sending them home." Atkins says, You can't do that. That's the government's property.
That's
Stop
it. Everything trickles down to here.
You're jeopardizing our national security. Sean says, "No, I'm saving it. The crystal unit on Sean's
your national security, brah.
This crystal unit on Sean's third eye seems to be like a remote control guiding the ship. Sean says, "It's not safe. Let's go," and orders everybody out of the cave. Atkins and Corey run out of the cave. Everything starts getting destroyed while the ship starts to rumble and move. Cut to a slow-mo shot of Sean, now human. He's turned his Guyver unit back to human form. Corey and Atkins running out of the cave. As a big explosion blows right behind them. The top of the mountain erupts. Smoke shoots out of it. And the cave blows, with the giant ship erupting and taking off into space as Corey, Atkins, and Sean look on. Sean and Corey smile while Atkins looks thoroughly pissed. The Guyver's unit tentacles that are like hanging from the ship at the bottom open up and like shoot like a little beam of light behind them, and the ship itself shoots off into space. Cut to rocks covering up a body, which is Marcus, Corey's dad. She looks totally sad. He does too. They walk away from it. It looks like they just put rocks on top of the body.
Yeah.
They didn't even bury it.
No.
They didn't bury it.
No one's got time for that, bro.
Atkins walks up to Sean and says, "I want to talk to you." Sean doesn't want to. Sean says, "There's nothing more to say." Atkins says, "Wait, Sean, we're launching an underground war against Kronos. The government could use your help." Sean and Corey get into Corey's truck. Sean looks at Atkins and says, "See you around." Starts the car. Corey and Sean drive off, leaving Atkins at the camp. Atkins yells out, At least tell me how I can reach you." Atkins smiles and says, "She around, kid." Corey and Sean,
and this is the first time like Atkins smiles, and
right, finally smiles.
I'm a sucker for it, man. I'm a sucker for the Atkins, like see you around, kid. I like it. I like it.
Right, and there you see Corey and Sean drive off, but then they pull over to the side of the road. Sean stops. They touch each other's hands and kiss passionately. Then they do butterfly kisses on their noses. Then they drive off. You fade to black and the credits roll. Dare to believe you can survive. But they have cheesy music that plays them out, unfortunately. Damn you, Les Claypool III.
Les Claypool III.
But that is the end of Guyver 2, Dark Hero.
There's some gold in this movie, man. There is some true gold. Crane's xenomorph, whatever.
Zoanoid.
Thank you.
Zoeanoid.
Crane's Zoanoid looks fantastic. The Guyver looks fantastic too, but like Crane's Zoanoid has more to it with like the mouth moving and everything. And I mean, it's guys and gals. I say it's really good, but what I want you to understand is it's really good. Fucking good. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool looking.
Yeah, it really is. The shit that works in this movie really fucking works. And it's a dead horse. We've beaten it a million times. What doesn't work about this movie is the runtime. 30 minutes could easily be trimmed off, but I think it sets up a fucking amazing War of the Worlds TV show theory, like thing, like they could take off from this. And it's a shame that no one's ever done that, because I think this could be totally fucking amazing. Like, I think a Guyver TV show done rated R on, HBO Max or something like that would be amazing. And I think you could actually keep the first movie and this movie still canon. And hell, bring in David Hayter as an older Guyver or something. I think there's so much here. And it's just a damn shame that it's just kind of, sitting out there and doing nothing. Yeah, as far as a licensed property goes. But
yeah.
But I think there's a lot to like about this movie. I do truly think there's a lot to like about this movie, but I think that there's a better movie buried inside the runtime. I think that this movie could have achieved maybe not greatness, but like come close to it if they had just made some different choices here and there, just minor ones. Yeah. And it would have I think it would have ended up a lot more fun, honestly.
Yeah, I think people who've never seen Guyver 2 Dark Hero will find it funny in a kind of mystery science theater kind of way throughout, It definitely has its moments throughout that are very enjoyable from a serious standpoint, but it's schlocky because of the scenes that we mentioned. And Robert, I hope we did it justice for you by breaking this movie down. We shared what we loved, what we didn't love, what works, what doesn't work. But at the end of the day, I'm glad we watched it. I'm glad. Thank you for bringing it to the table.
Yeah.
It's still available on physical media. So, forget about streaming services. I know people are like, is it streaming somewhere? Go buy it on Blu-ray, or it's not on Blu-ray. Go buy it on DVD.
Yeah, you sent me media. The DVD. Did you get it off of eBay or where? Or did
I think Amazon?
Okay, yeah, it's still available on Amazon. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and for everybody involved in the movie, like for those that didn't do the best job, cinematography, music, and those who did, the actors, I think the actors do a very good job overall. Hopefully we'll have Kathy elaborate more on if her character was supposed to go more in the Guyver route. It'll be cool to have that conversation with her. So look forward to that in the new year. But in the meantime, this was Guyver 2. And, not only did Robert get a double dose this month? We're also going to have Robert on our wrap up to discuss these movies a little bit further, get his take on why he chose these two films.
Yeah.
That's on our wrap up after dark. It's on our Patreon. So go to patreon.com/podcastingafterdark to sign up. If you already are a member, thank you so much. If you're considering becoming one, give us a try. See if you like it. And maybe you'll become a top tier patron and request your own movie like so many great patrons have done. Robert, Aaron, Crystal, and Cam Sully. So thank you guys for bringing these movies to the table. Thank you for introducing something that we might not necessarily choose.
Yeah.
We do have some Christmas movies coming up next month. And if you want to know what those are, go to our Patreon, sign up, and you'll get a jump start on that through our wrap up after dark.
Yeah, wrap up. Not only will we be talking to Rob about the movies, but we'll also be announcing what movies we are going to be reviewing in December as well. But yeah, dude, I mean, I know we had our problems with this movie, but I'm not upset about the fact that we watched it. You know, like, I'm not upset about the fact that we brought it to the table thanks to Rob and everything. I think this movie has a lot going for it. And I think it is a cult classic from the 90s. I think it really, really is.
I can see why. I can totally see why, because the people who love the Guyver story will love it for what it is. People that love kind of cheesy B movies will love it for that reason too. So it's got a little bit for everybody. And for those people that, it's got a little bit for everybody. Guyver.
And I gotta say, this movie does feel like a labor of love. Like, I can feel the love in this movie for the property of, the Guyver, the Japanese anime property. I feel the love of it in this movie. And I mean, honestly, I feel like it's kind of amazing. As boring as the first movie was, or at least as I remember it to be, it's kind of amazing that we got a part 2 to that.
And I still think it's better than a lot of movies that John Carpenter made during the 90s. So, and if you want our take on those movies, go to patreon.com/podcastingafterdark and check out the Carpenter Factor series.
Yeah, dude, you're not wrong. That's the funny thing, is like, as much as we revere and put Carpenter up on a pedestal, like, I would watch Guyver 2 over his Masters of Horror series, and maybe some other things. Maybe not The Ward though. Like, go and check that out. But yeah, dude,
find out what is The Ward the current episode?
No, The Ward. This will be out before The Ward comes out, so I'll just kind of give a little bit of a preview of The Ward for those of you who are signed up and not signed up. The Ward kind of goes a different direction that we didn't expect, and we might actually very much enjoy that movie. So you'll have to check out, like you said, you have to check it out on Patreon. But you're not wrong, dude. Like, even with its faults, I would still watch this movie again. I might watch it with somebody else and like kind of put it on the background and, smoke some weed, drink some beers, like talk during it. But I think the Zoonoid Guyver fights, I think whoever I watch it with, I think we'll pay attention. Like, I think the shit that works about this movie fucking works really well.
And I've watched it 3 times in the past week. So I can tell you that you can watch it several times and still find enjoyment out of it.
And still survive. So thank you so much. Rob, thank you for supporting the show. Thank you so much, man. Seriously. Thank you so much.
Yeah, dude. Thank you.
Excalibur rules. The Guyver 2's pretty cool. And can't wait to see what you bring to the table next. But thank you so much, man. And thank you everyone who supports the show. You can check out podcastingafterdark.com. That's podcastingafterdark.com. Our website has links to everything. Links to the Patreon, links to our merch store, links to every episode, every TV Obscura episode, everything across the board, all of our social media platforms. So swing over by podcastingafterdark.com. That's podcastingafterdark.com. Now, Zach, is there anything you can announce coming out on $2 late fee in December? What are you guys talking about? What's the big movie of the month?
No, I can't.
Okay, so anyways, thank you guys, and we'll catch you on the dark side.
No, but I can tell you by the time that this episode drops, we just released territory marks. So really quickly, yeah, if you want a head start on what comes out on $2 late fee in December, go over to our go over to $2 late fees Patreon, patreon.com/$2 late fee, and sign up for that. Tales from the Video Store, we always kind of drop hints at what's to come for the following month. But territory marks, which is a part of $2 late fee, we just, depending on when this episode comes out, we just dropped a Thankful for Flair episode, 2 matches where Ric Flair puts over talent. And it's an interesting episode because we just kind of we celebrate Nature Boy Ric Flair in the 80s and how amazing he was back then.
Woo!
And going into December, you know, Dustin and I attended the screening of an upcoming film called The Iron Claw, which is about Dallas wrestling in the 80s, world-class championship wrestling, and the Von Erich family. It's a very tragic story, but it's a really well-done film, and we're going to be covering the Von Erich family in December on Territory Marks, and have a very special interview with someone closely connected to the family. If you want to know more about that, sign up to our Patreon. If not, then just stay tuned for later in the month and you'll hear it anyways. Sign up to our Spotify, Apple Podcasts, blah, 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 blah. Anyways, how about Corey? Anything else going on in the world of podcasting after dark? Or is that it?
By the time you guys are listening to this, Zach and I will be doing panels down at the LA Comic-Con in early December. And then, yeah, man, we got fucking Christmas movies coming out in December, so stay tuned. Rocking and rolling. And then freaking January, my God, man, we never end. We never stop producing content. So thank you all so much for supporting the show, especially Rob. Thank you so much, man. Yeah, thank you for the Guyver. Really appreciate you and appreciate your love and support for the show and everything. And as always,
we'll catch you on the dark side. Be sure to subscribe to Podcasting After Dark and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes. Support Podcasting After Dark on Patreon. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Podcasting After Dark. And visit us next time for another installment of Podcasting After Dark with Corey Stevenson and Zach Schaefer.
Have you been wondering where's the beef? Well, on our podcast, Throwback Trivia Takedown, you might just find that out, as well as some other things about the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
We're a nostalgic-based trivia show that pits 2 challengers head-to-head in a duel of the decades, with categories ranging from movies, TV and music, to slang, food, and fashion. You're sure to get the best in retro-themed trivia.
So strap on your jelly shoes, grab a Surge, and walk like an Egyptian to your favorite podcast app and check out Throwback Trivia Takedown.
I heard even Mikey likes it.